The bullet wasn't meant for him. It was meant for her. Former soldier Noah Grant threw himself in front of CEO Clara Sterling as gunfire shattered the night, realizing too late that protecting her would unravel everything he thought he knew about his daughter, his dead wife, and the conspiracy that connected them all. What started as a simple bodyguard job became a race against assassins, buried secrets, and a truth so dangerous it could destroy the only family he had left. Stay until the end to discover how a single father's desperate choice saved more than just one life. And comment your city below so I can see how far this story has traveled across the world. The coffee in Noah Grant's hand had gone cold 3 hours ago, but he kept holding it anyway, staring at the steam that had long since vanished into the cramped air of his studio apartment. Through the thin walls, he could hear Mrs. Chen next door arguing with her television again, the way she did every Tuesday morning when her game shows didn't go her way. The sound would have been irritating to anyone else, but to Noah, it was just another thread in the fabric of ordinary life, the kind of ordinary he'd fought for overseas, killed for, and somehow still couldn't quite figure out how to live. On the kitchen counter, beneath a stack of overdue bills that seemed to multiply like bacteria, sat a letter that had arrived yesterday. Lily's school. Final notice. Without payment of the remaining tuition, $5,347, his daughter would be withdrawn from the only place she'd found stability since her mother died. Noah set down the coffee cup with more force than he intended, the ceramic making a sharp crack against the formica. His hands were steady. Years of training had made sure of that. But inside his chest, something felt like it was slowly tearing apart. "Daddy?" He turned to find Lily standing in the doorway of her bedroom, clutching the stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was 3. At 8 years old, she was small for her age, with dark eyes that seemed to hold far more understanding than any child should possess. Her black hair, still messy from sleep, fell across her face in a way that made Noah's heart constrict with a love so fierce it sometimes frightened him. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, forcing his voice into something that sounded like normalcy. "You're up early." "I had another dream," Lily said softly, patting across the worn linoleum in her bare feet. "About the lady again." Noah felt his stomach tighten. For the past 6 months, Lily had been drawing the same woman over and over. Tall, with long dark hair and eyes that looked sad even when she smiled. Dr. Patterson, the child psychologist the VA had recommended, said it was normal for children who'd lost a parent to create imaginary figures. Projection, she'd called it, a coping mechanism. But something about the consistency of Lily's drawings had always unsettled Noah. Every detail was identical: the exact shade of the woman's hair, the small scar above her left eyebrow, the way she stood with her shoulders slightly hunched as if carrying an invisible weight. "What happened in the dream?" Noah asked, kneeling down to his daughter's level. Lily's small fingers tightened around the rabbit's ears. "She was crying, and there were men chasing her. Bad men." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Like the ones who hurt Mommy." The words hit Noah like a physical blow. Sarah had died 2 years ago in what the police had called a random mugging gone wrong. She'd been walking home from her shift at the hospital when someone attacked her in an alley 3 blocks from their old apartment. The case had gone cold within weeks, filed away with thousands of other unsolved crimes in a city that had too many murders to properly investigate them all. But Noah had never believed it was random. Sarah had been too careful, too aware of her surroundings from years of working night shifts in rough neighborhoods. And in the weeks before her death, she'd been different, distracted, anxious, constantly checking her phone and looking over her shoulder. When he'd asked her about it, she'd kissed his forehead and told him she was just tired, that everything was fine. 2 days later, she was dead. "Hey," Noah said gently, pulling Lily into a hug. "Mommy's accident wasn't because of bad men. It was just a terrible thing that happened. And the lady in your dreams, she's not real, remember? She's just your imagination." Lily pulled back, her dark eyes searching his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "But what if she is real, Daddy? What if she needs our help?" Before Noah could respond, his phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at the screen and felt his pulse quicken. The message was from Marcus Webb, an old Army buddy who'd transitioned into private security after their discharge. "Got something for you." "Good money. Are you available for a call? Noah looked back at Lily, at the bills on the counter, at the letter from the school that represented the difference between his daughter's future and her absence from the one place where she seemed happy. He typed back a single word. Yes. 20 minutes later, after dropping Lily off at Mrs. Chen's apartment with a promise to pick her up by noon, Noah sat in his car in the parking lot of a coffee shop 3 miles away, his phone pressed to his ear. It's a 2-week gig, Marcus said, his voice carrying that same command-level clarity it had possessed when he'd been Noah's squad leader in Kandahar. Personal protection detail for a tech CEO. She's got some big product launch coming up, and her security team is worried about aggressive paparazzi and potential corporate espionage. They want someone with military experience who can think tactically. You interested? What's the pay? Noah asked, though he already knew he'd take the job regardless of the number. $5,000 for the 2 weeks. Cash, half up front, half on completion. Noah closed his eyes. It was exactly what he needed. I'm in. Good. Client wants to meet you today. 2 o'clock at Sterling Technologies headquarters downtown. Ask for Clara Sterling. And Noah? Marcus paused. This one's different. The client, she's not like the usual corporate types we deal with. She's got a situation that's more complicated than she's letting on. Watch yourself. But the call ended, leaving Noah sitting in his car with the sun streaming through the windshield and Marcus's words echoing in his mind. More complicated than she's letting on. In Noah's experience, that phrase was usually code for danger, the kind that wore expensive suits and hid behind legal teams and non-disclosure agreements. But he didn't have the luxury of being particular. $5,000 meant Lily could stay in school. It meant keeping the heat on through winter. It meant a few more months of holding their small, fragile life together. He started the engine and headed downtown. Sterling Technologies occupied the top 15 floors of a glass tower that seemed to pierce the gray autumn sky. Noah had passed the building 100 times, but never imagined he'd be inside it, riding an elevator with polished mirrors and soft jazz playing through hidden speakers. His reflection stared back at him. A man in his early 30s wearing the only suit he owned, a discount store purchase from 2 years ago that didn't quite fit right across the shoulders. His dark hair was cut military short, and the scar above his left eye, courtesy of an IED outside Kabul, gave him an appearance that was somewhere between dangerous and exhausted. The elevator doors opened onto the executive floor, where everything was chrome and white leather and the kind of silence that only money could buy. A young woman with a tablet and a smile that didn't reach her eyes approached him. Mr. Grant, Ms. Sterling is expecting you. Please follow me. They walked down a hallway lined with photographs of technological innovations, satellites, medical devices, clean energy systems. Noah recognized some of them from news articles he'd read. Sterling Technologies had made headlines 3 years ago when Clara Sterling, at just 30 years old, had taken over the company after her adoptive father's death and transformed it from a mid-tier defense contractor into a leader in humanitarian technology. She'd canceled military contracts, pivoted to civilian applications, and somehow made the company more profitable in the process. The assistant stopped at a door marked C. Sterling, CEO, and knocked twice before opening it. Ms. Sterling, Mr. Grant is here. Send him in. The voice was lower than Noah expected, with a slight rasp that suggested either recent illness or chronic exhaustion. He stepped into the office and felt the door close behind him. Clara Sterling stood with her back to him, looking out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city sprawled below. She was tall, maybe 5'10", with long dark hair that fell in waves down her back. She wore a charcoal gray suit that was professional but not severe, and when she turned to face him, Noah's breath caught in his throat. It was the woman from Lily's drawings. Every detail was exact. The shape of her face, the small scar above her left eyebrow, the way her shoulders hunched slightly forward as if bearing an invisible weight. Even her expression, professional, but with a sadness in her dark eyes that seemed to run bone deep. Mr. Grant, she said, extending her hand. Thank you for coming on short notice. Noah shook her hand automatically, his mind racing. This was impossible. Lily had never met this woman. There was no way his daughter could have drawn someone she'd never seen with such perfect accuracy. Unless, Ms., Sterling, he managed, his voice rougher than intended. It's good to meet you. She gestured to a chair opposite her desk. Please sit. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water? I'm fine. Noah sat, trying to regain his professional composure. He needed this job. He couldn't afford to let his confusion show. Clara settled into her own chair and studied him with an intensity that made him feel like he was back in a military debriefing. Marcus Webb speaks very highly of you. He says you're one of the best soldiers he ever served with. Marcus is generous with his compliments. He said you saved his life twice. Once in Kandahar, once in Mosul. She leaned forward slightly. He also said you're a single father raising a young daughter and that you're trustworthy. Those qualities matter to me more than combat experience. Noah nodded slowly. I appreciate the opportunity, Ms. Sterling, but I have to ask, why me? You could hire any security firm in the city. Why bring in someone like me for what Marcus described as a paparazzi problem? Clara's expression shifted, something flickering behind her eyes that might have been fear. Because I don't think it's just paparazzi, she said quietly, and I need someone who knows how to handle situations that might turn dangerous. She stood and walked back to the window, her arms crossed over her chest. For a long moment, she didn't speak, and Noah found himself studying her reflection in the glass, the tension in her shoulders, the way her jaw was clenched as if holding back words she didn't know how to say. 3 weeks ago, she finally said, I started noticing people following me. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. But then my head of security checked the footage from our building's cameras and found the same individuals appearing at multiple locations, outside my apartment, near my gym, in restaurants where I was having business dinners. They're always at a distance, always with cameras, but something about them feels wrong. Wrong how? Noah asked. Clara turned to face him. They move like soldiers, not photographers. They watch escape routes instead of looking for good angles. And yesterday, one of them got close enough that my driver noticed something. She walked to her desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a printed photograph. He was wearing this under his jacket. Noah took the photo and felt his blood run cold. It showed a man in his 40s with gray-streaked hair wearing a leather jacket. Visible beneath the jacket, just barely caught by the camera's zoom, was the edge of a tactical holster. These aren't paparazzi, Noah said. They're surveillance, professional surveillance. That's what I thought. Clara sat back down, her hands folded on the desk. I hired a private investigator to look into it, but before he could give me his findings, he called and said he was dropping the case. He sounded terrified, Mr. Grant, said I should stop asking questions and hire better security instead. And you didn't go to the police? With what? Photos of people standing on public streets? No threats? No contact? No crime? The police would file a report and tell me to call if anything actually happened. She met his eyes. I need someone who can do more than file reports. Someone who can see trouble coming and act before it arrives. Noah studied the photograph again, his tactical mind automatically assessing threat levels. If these were professionals, they were either corporate spies trying to steal technology or something worse, much worse. Ms. Sterling, if these people are what I think they are, 2 weeks might not be enough time to— Then I'll extend the contract, she interrupted. I'll pay whatever it takes. I just need someone I can trust. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word, and for a moment the professional veneer slipped, revealing something raw underneath. I've spent the last 3 years building this company into something that actually helps people. I've made enemies in the defense industry, stepped on toes of powerful people who didn't like me canceling their weapons contracts. But I did it because it was right. And now someone is watching me, tracking me, and I don't know why or when they're going to make their move. Noah looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not just the CEO of a billion-dollar company, but a woman who was genuinely afraid. And underneath that fear was something else, something familiar that he couldn't quite place. I'll take the job, he said, but I need full disclosure. If there's anything else you're not telling me, anything that might explain why you're being targeted, I need to know now. Clara hesitated, her fingers drumming once against the desk. There is one more thing, she said slowly, but it's personal, and I don't know if it's connected. Tell me anyway. She stood and walked to a small safe hidden behind a painting on the wall. After entering a code, she removed a manila folder and brought it back to the desk. Inside were several documents, DNA test results, adoption records, and what looked like newspaper clippings. 6 months ago, Clara began, her voice carefully controlled, I decided to take one of those consumer DNA tests. Just curiosity, really. I was adopted as an infant, and I'd always wondered about my biological family. She pulled out the DNA results. I got a match, a close relative, second degree, either a niece, nephew, or grandparent. Noah's stomach dropped as Clara pulled out a photograph and slid it across the desk. It was Lily. Not just someone who looked like Lily. It was his daughter's face staring back at him from a school photo that he recognized because he'd taken it himself 6 months ago. The photo that Lily's school had used for their directory. Her name is Lily Grant, Clara said softly. 8 years old. Lives at 412 Oak Street, apartment 3B. Father is Noah Grant, former Army Ranger, currently working part-time security jobs. Mother was Sarah Grant, died 2 years ago under circumstances that were ruled a random mugging but never solved. Noah felt like he'd been punched in the chest. How did you... I'm a tech CEO, Mr. Grant. I have resources. Clara's expression was pained. When the DNA test gave me that match, I hired investigators to find out who she was. I learned everything about her, about you, about your wife's death. She paused. I was going to reach out months ago, but I didn't know how. What do you say to a child who doesn't know you exist? How do you explain that you're her aunt? The word hung in the air between them like a bomb waiting to detonate. That's impossible, Noah said, his voice hollow. Sarah never mentioned having a sister. She told me she was an only child, that her parents died when she was young. Sarah Sterling was an only child, Clara said. But Michael Sterling wasn't, my brother. She pulled out one of the newspaper clippings, an obituary from 8 years ago. He died in a car accident when I was 22, single vehicle collision on a mountain road. They ruled it an accident, but I never believed it. Michael was too careful a driver, and the night he died, he'd called me in a panic saying he'd discovered something at work that was going to change everything. He worked for Sterling Technologies back when it was still doing defense contracts. He was an engineer, but he'd started asking questions about where some of our technology was ending up. She pulled out another document, a birth certificate. 3 months after he died, a baby girl was born at St. Mary's Hospital. Mother's name listed as Sarah Sterling. No father listed. Sarah told the adoption agency she couldn't care for the child and gave her up for adoption. Clara's voice shook. That baby was adopted by the Grant family, you and Sarah. But here's what doesn't make sense. According to the records, Sarah Sterling died of complications from childbirth 2 days after the baby was born. But if Sarah Sterling was your wife and your wife just died 2 years ago, then either there were 2 Sarah Sterlings, Noah finished slowly, or someone falsified death records. Exactly. Clara leaned back in her chair. I've been trying to piece it together for months. The DNA doesn't lie. Lily is my brother's daughter. But everything else is a maze of contradictions and dead ends. Every time I try to dig deeper, I hit a wall. Records that should exist don't. People who should remember things have suddenly convenient lapses in memory. And now people are following me with guns under their jackets. Noah's hands had gone numb. He looked down at the photograph of Lily, at the DNA results, at the impossible evidence that his daughter was not who he thought she was, that his wife had not been who he thought she was. Does Lily know any of this? Clara asked softly. She doesn't even know she's adopted, Noah said. Sarah and I, we agreed to tell her when she was older. She was only 6 when Sarah died, too young to understand. And since then, I've been trying to just keep her stable, keep her safe. His voice trailed off as something clicked in his mind. Lily's dreams. The woman she'd been drawing for 6 months, the same woman who was now sitting across from him, claiming to be her biological aunt. Mr. Grant? Clara's voice pulled him back. Are you all right? My daughter, Noah said slowly, has been dreaming about you, drawing you. For the past 6 months, almost exactly when you would have gotten that DNA test result, she started having these recurring dreams about a woman with long dark hair, a woman she's never met, and every detail she draws is perfect. It's you. Clara's face went pale. That's not possible. I know, but I've seen the drawings, dozens of them, all identical, all you. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The office was so quiet Noah could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. There's something else, Clara said finally, something I didn't tell the investigators. A week after I got the DNA results, I received an anonymous email. No return address, no signature. It just said, "Stop looking for the child. Some truths are too dangerous to know." Did you stop? Clara's jaw tightened. I don't respond well to threats. Noah almost smiled despite the surreal nightmare his life had just become. Me neither. So, stood and extended her hand again. Do we still have a deal, Mr. Grant? Knowing that protecting me might mean protecting your daughter too? That whatever I'm caught up in, she might already be part of it. Noah stood and shook her hand, his grip firm. We have a deal, but on one condition. Name it. You don't contact Lily, not yet, not until we know what we're dealing with. His voice hardened. She's 8 years old, Ms. Sterling. She's been through enough trauma. I won't have her drawn into something that might put her in more danger. Clara nodded slowly. Agreed, but Mr. Grant, Noah, if she's already dreaming about me, she might already be drawn into it, whether we want her to be or not. The words settled over them like a shroud, heavy with implications neither wanted to examine too closely. When do I start? Noah asked. Now. I have a board meeting in an hour, then dinner with potential investors tonight at Marcello's downtown. My driver will pick me up at 7. I'd like you there for both. I'll need to make arrangements for my daughter. Already done. Clara pulled out a check and slid it across the desk. This is your advance, $2,500. Use whatever you need for childcare. And Noah? She met his eyes. Thank you. For not running when this turned out to be more complicated than a simple security job. Noah pocketed the check, his mind still reeling. Miss Sterling, in my experience, nothing is ever simple once guns get involved. Clara, she said, if we're going to do this, call me Clara. Clara. He nodded. I'll see you in an hour. As Noah left the office and headed back to the elevator, he pulled out his phone and looked at his background photo. Lily, grinning at the camera with chocolate ice cream on her nose, taken last summer at the park. She looked so innocent, so unaware of the truth buried beneath her life. Some truths are too dangerous to know. The anonymous email's words echoed in his mind as the elevator descended. He thought about Sarah's death, about her anxiety in the weeks before the attack, about the case that had gone cold so quickly it was almost as if someone had wanted it to disappear. And he thought about Lily's dreams, about the impossible accuracy of her drawings, about a child who somehow knew the face of a woman she'd never met. By the time Noah reached the ground floor, one thing had become crystalline clear. This job wasn't about protecting a CEO from overzealous photographers. It was about uncovering a conspiracy that had been hidden for 8 years, a conspiracy that had already claimed at least 2 lives, and his daughter was at the center of it. The board meeting was exactly as tedious as Noah expected, filled with corporate jargon and PowerPoint presentations about Q4 projections. He stood at the back of the conference room, watching Clara command the space with quiet authority, while his eyes constantly scanned for threats, exits, sightlines, people who seemed too interested or not interested enough. It was during a particularly boring discussion about supply chain optimization that Noah noticed the man. He was standing across the street, partially hidden by a bus stop shelter, with a camera equipped with a telephoto lens pointed directly at Sterling Technologies' conference room windows. But he wasn't taking pictures. The camera was stationary, focused, and the man kept glancing at his watch as if waiting for something specific to happen. Noah pulled out his phone and zoomed in, taking several photos of the surveillance operator. Military bearing, mid-40s, black tactical jacket. The same man from Clara's photograph. He was about to alert Clara when his phone buzzed with an incoming text from a blocked number. She's not the only one we're watching. Attached to the message was a photograph that made Noah's blood turn to ice. It was Lily, taken less than an hour ago, walking out of Mrs. Chen's apartment building, holding the old woman's hand. The angle suggested the photographer had been standing across the street, telephoto lens aimed directly at his daughter. A second message arrived. Whatever she's paying you isn't worth it. Walk away. Noah's hand tightened around his phone hard enough that the screen protector cracked. He looked up at Clara, who was still presenting to the board, completely unaware that everything had just changed. These weren't corporate spies or overzealous paparazzi. These were operators with resources, coordination, and no compunction about threatening a child to make their point. And somehow, impossibly, they knew about Lily's connection to Clara before Noah himself had known. The meeting ended 20 minutes later. As the board members filed out, Noah caught Clara's eye and gave a slight nod toward the door. She understood immediately, excusing herself and meeting him in the hallway. "What is it?" she asked, reading his expression. Noah showed her the texts and the photo of Lily. Clara's face went white. "Oh my God! Noah, I'm so sorry. I never thought—" "They knew," Noah interrupted. "Before you hired me, before we talked, they already knew about Lily's connection to you. Which means this isn't about your product launch or corporate espionage. This is about her. About what she represents." "What she represents?" Looked confused. "She's a child. She's proof." Noah's mind was racing, pieces clicking together. If Lily is Michael Sterling's daughter, if her birth was covered up and her mother's death was falsified, then she's evidence of something someone went to extraordinary lengths to hide. And now that you've found her, now that you've connected the dots, "We've made her a target," Clara finished, her voice hollow. "By trying to find the truth, I've put her in danger." "The danger was always there," Noah said. "We just didn't know it yet. But now they've shown their hand." He looked back at the conference room windows, where the man with the camera had vanished. "They're watching both of you, which means they're worried. People who feel secure don't send threatening messages. They act." "So what do we do?" Noah pulled out his phone and dialed Mrs. Chen. She answered on the second ring, her accented voice worried. "Noah? Is everything okay? Lily is being very quiet today, very nervous." "Mrs. Chen, I need you to do something for me," Noah said, keeping his voice calm despite the adrenaline flooding his system. "Take Lily to your sister's house in Brooklyn, right now. Don't pack, don't tell anyone where you're going, just take her and go. I'll call you in 2 hours with instructions." There was a pause. "Noah, you're scaring me." "I know, but I need you to trust me. Please." Okay, we go now." The line went dead. Noah turned back to Clara, who was watching him with an expression that mixed fear and determination. "We need to move fast," he said. "Whatever these people are planning, they're going to escalate now that they know we're not backing down. I need to know everything. Every detail about your brother's death, about the adoption, about what he was working on before he died, and I need access to Sterling Technologies' old personnel files, especially anyone who worked with Michael." Clara nodded. "My office. I have copies of everything I've gathered." They walked quickly back to Clara's office, Noah's hand instinctively hovering near his waistband where he used to carry his service weapon. He'd left military life behind, but the instincts remained, flooding back now with the familiar razor edge of combat alertness. Once inside with the door locked, Clara pulled out a file box from her safe. Inside were dozens of documents, Michael Sterling's personnel file, his published research papers, handwritten notes, photographs, and a leather journal with worn edges. "This was Michael's," Clara said, handing Noah the journal. "I found it in a storage unit he rented that no one knew about. I only discovered it 2 years ago when the rental company finally tracked me down after the fees went unpaid. It's mostly technical notes, but there are entries toward the end that suggest he was investigating something within Sterling Technologies." Noah flipped through the pages, scanning entries dated 8 years ago. Most of it was engineering specifications and calculations he couldn't follow, but certain passages were underlined. "Dad approved the Prometheus contract today. I told him it was a mistake, that the technology isn't ready for military application, but he won't listen. Says we need the revenue. But if this ends up where I think it will," followed the shipping manifest. 3 units diverted from the stated destination. No record of the diversion in official logs. Dad says I'm being paranoid, but someone is covering their tracks. "Met with C today. She doesn't know what I'm investigating, but I can see it worries her. She's always been able to read me too well. If something happens, she needs to stay out of it. She's too good a person to get dragged into this darkness." And then, the final entry, dated 3 days before Michael Sterling's death. I know where the units went. I know who authorized the diversion and why. Tomorrow I'm taking the evidence to the FBI. If I'm right, this goes all the way to the top of the DOD. People are going to prison. But tonight, I need to see Sarah one more time. Need to tell her the truth about everything. She deserves to know before this explodes. The baby is due in 2 months. My daughter. God, I hope she never has to learn what her father discovered, what her father became part of, even unknowingly. Noah looked up at Clara. Sarah, he said slowly. He writes about Sarah like she was someone significant, not just a girlfriend, but someone he trusted with dangerous information. I know, Clara said. I've read that entry 100 times. It's why I think Sarah Sterling, my sister-in-law, and your wife Sarah Grant might be the same person. That somehow she survived childbirth, went into hiding with the baby, and created a new identity. But why? Noah set down the journal. If she was in hiding, why risk adoption through official channels? Why not just disappear completely? Because she couldn't care for a baby alone while hiding from whoever killed Michael, Clara said. So she did the only thing that would keep the child safe. She gave her to someone she trusted. Someone military, trained, capable of protection. You. The implications crashed over Noah like a wave. Sarah and I met 9 years ago. She was a nurse at Walter Reed. I was recovering from injuries sustained in Afghanistan. We dated for 6 months, got married quickly. He trailed off, memory reshaping itself under this new light. She never talked about her past, said it was too painful, that she'd lost everyone and wanted to focus on our future instead. I thought it was trauma, but what if it was strategy? What if she chose you specifically? Clara finished. A soldier with combat training, someone who would protect a child without question, someone who wouldn't dig too deep into a past she couldn't explain. Noah felt sick. So our entire relationship was— I don't think so, Clara interrupted gently. The adoption records show she gave up Lily at birth. But then 5 months later she came back for her. Went through a lengthy custody battle to reclaim the daughter she'd surrendered. That's not someone following a cold plan. That's a mother who couldn't bear to be separated from her child. She pulled out more documents, custody records, court transcripts. Noah read through them, seeing his wife's name over and over, seeing her fight to reclaim Lily with a desperation that seemed to leap off the page. The judge's final ruling, Clara said, pointing to a passage, granted custody to Sarah Grant, noting that she had recently married and could now provide a stable home. You were that stability, Noah. The reason she got Lily back. And then she died 2 years later, Noah said bitterly. Killed in an alley in a mugging that was never solved. Unless it wasn't a mugging, Clara's voice was quiet. Unless someone finally found her. And maybe she knew they were getting close. Maybe that's why she was so anxious in those final weeks. Noah thought about Sarah's last days, about the way she'd held Lily longer than usual when putting her to bed, about the letter she'd written and hidden in their lockbox. A letter he'd found after her death and read only once before putting it away, unable to handle the pain of her words. Wait, he said suddenly. Sarah left a letter, for Lily. I put it in our deposit box at First National. Haven't looked at it since the funeral. She said it was for Lily to read when she was older, that it explained things about her mother's life. Clara's eyes widened. We need to get that letter. The bank closes at 6. We can make it if we leave now. What about the dinner with investors? Clara asked. Cancel it. This is more important. But before Clara could respond, the office lights went out, plunging them into darkness broken only by the glow of the city through the windows. Emergency power should have kicked in, Clara whispered. It's designed to engage within 3 seconds of a power failure. Noah was already moving, pulling Clara away from the windows and toward the interior wall. This isn't a power failure. We need to move, now. There's a private elevator, Clara said, her voice remarkably steady given the circumstances. Requires a key card. Leads directly to the parking garage. Show me. They moved through the darkened office, Noah's hand on Clara's elbow, guiding her while his eyes adjusted to the low light. Behind them, he heard the distant sound of the main elevator arriving at their floor, heard the soft ping of doors opening. Someone was coming. Clara swiped her keycard at a panel Noah hadn't noticed before, hidden behind a bookshelf. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a small elevator, clearly designed for executive emergencies. They stepped inside and Clara pressed the parking garage button. The doors started to close just as flashlight beams swept across the office they'd just left. "There!" a voice shouted. "The executive elevator!" The doors sealed shut and the elevator began its descent, but Noah knew they didn't have much time. Whoever was up there would be racing for the parking garage right now, trying to cut them off. "Do you have a car here?" Noah asked. "Yes, but it's company registered. They'll know which vehicle to look for." "Then we take mine. Level 3, near the west stairwell." The elevator reached the parking garage and the doors opened onto chaos. Alarms were blaring, emergency lights flashing, and security guards were trying to coordinate some kind of response to the building-wide power failure. In the confusion, Noah and Clara slipped out unnoticed, moving quickly between rows of parked cars. Noah's vehicle, a 10-year-old Honda Civic that had seen better days, sat exactly where he'd left it. They got in, Noah starting the engine while Clara crouched low in the passenger seat. "They're going to block the exits," Clara said. "Not all of them." Noah reversed out of the space and headed not for the main garage entrance, but for the delivery ramp on the building's north side, a route used by maintenance vehicles that most people forgot existed. Sure enough, as they approached the main exit, Noah could see 2 black SUVs positioned to block vehicles from leaving, but the delivery ramp was clear, probably because whoever had planned this hadn't expected their targets to know about it. They emerged onto a side street, Noah immediately turning away from the business district and toward the residential neighborhoods where they could lose themselves in traffic. "Where are we going?" Clara asked, finally sitting up once they'd put several blocks between themselves and Sterling Technologies. "Somewhere safe while we figure out our next move." Noah pulled out his phone and called Mrs. Chen again. "Are you at your sister's?" "Yes, just arrived. Lily is confused asking for you." "Tell her I'm coming soon. Don't let anyone near that house." "Anyone." He hung up and looked at Clara. "We need to assume they have resources, police contacts, traffic camera access, maybe even federal agency cooperation. We can't use credit cards, can't go anywhere associated with either of us." "I have cash," Clara said. "About $1,000 in my purse. It's not much, but it's enough." Noah took a corner hard, checking his mirrors for pursuit. "There's a motel out near the airport. Cheap, accepts cash, doesn't ask questions. We hole up there tonight, get to the bank tomorrow morning when it opens, get that letter. Then we figure out what Sarah knew that got her killed." Clara was silent for a moment, staring out the window at the city lights flashing past. "Noah," she finally said, "I'm sorry. This is my fault. I should never have dug into the past. Should never have tried to find Lily." "No," Noah's voice was firm. "Whoever these people are, they've been there all along, watching, waiting. You didn't create this situation, Clara. You just shined a light on it. And now we have a choice. We can hide and hope they leave us alone, or we can fight back and find out what truth is worth killing to protect." "I vote for fighting back." Noah almost smiled. "Yeah, me too." They drove in silence for another 10 minutes, Noah taking a deliberately circuitous route to ensure they weren't being followed. By the time they pulled into the parking lot of the Skyview Motel, a rundown establishment that rented rooms by the hour and didn't have working security cameras, it was nearly 8 o'clock. Noah rented a room with cash, registering under a false name, while Clara waited in the car. The room was exactly what he expected. Stained carpet, a bed that sagged in the middle, and a bathroom that probably violated several health codes. But it had locks on the door and curtains on the windows, which was all they needed. "Luxury accommodations," Clara said dryly as she surveyed the space. "Five-star hotels have guest registries and surveillance," Noah replied, wedging a chair under the door handle as an additional security measure. "This place has amnesia." Clara sat on the edge of the bed and finally allowed herself to show the strain of the evening. "They really tried to grab us," she said quietly. "In my own building. They must be desperate. Or confident." Noah checked the window sight lines before closing the curtains. "They came at us in a building full of witnesses, cut the power, knew about the executive elevator. That's not desperation. That's someone with detailed intelligence and resources." "Which means someone inside Sterling Technologies is helping them," Clara realized. "Someone with access to building schematics, security protocols, executive schedules." How many people know about your investigation into Michael's death? Just my head of security, and he's been with the company for 20 years, worked with my father. Clara paused. But there are others who might have guessed. Board members who knew Michael, who remember when he died. Employees who worked with him on the Prometheus project. Prometheus, Noah repeated. That's what Michael mentioned in his journal. What is it? Clara stood and began pacing, the nervous energy needing somewhere to go. It was a defense contract from 8 years ago, military application of a targeting system Michael developed. It was supposed to make missile guidance more precise, reduce collateral damage. But according to Michael's notes, someone was diverting units, selling them to unauthorized buyers. Which buyers? He never specified, but if I had to guess, probably whoever was willing to pay the most. The technology was cutting edge at the time. Still is, really. In the wrong hands, it could make unsophisticated weapons far more deadly. Noah felt a chill run down his spine. How many units were diverted? Michael's notes mentioned 3, but if the operation continued after his death, Clara trailed off, the implications too dark to voice. We need that letter, Noah said. Whatever Sarah knew, whatever she was protecting, it's in that letter. I can feel it. And if the people after us know about the letter too, if they're waiting for us at the bank, then we'll be ready for them. Noah pulled out his phone and started making calls. I have friends, people I served with who owe me favors. If there's going to be a confrontation, I want backup. He spent the next hour coordinating with Marcus and 2 other ex-military contacts, explaining the situation in broad strokes and arranging for support at the bank the next morning. By the time he finished, it was after 10 p.m., and Clara had fallen asleep sitting up against the headboard, exhaustion finally overwhelming adrenaline. Noah grabbed the spare blanket from the closet and draped it over her shoulders, careful not to wake her. In sleep, she looked younger, more vulnerable, and he could see traces of Lily in her features, the shape of her eyes, the line of her jaw. Family. The word felt strange applied to someone he'd known less than a day, but the connection was undeniable. His phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Chen. Lily is finally sleeping. She drew another picture tonight. The woman again, but this time she's standing with you, both of you watching over Lily. She says this is what safe feels like. Noah stared at the message, at the impossible prescience of his daughter's visions. How could she know? How could she see Clara with such clarity, place her in their lives with such certainty? Unless it wasn't vision. Unless it was memory. The thought struck him like lightning. What if Lily remembered Clara? Not from this life, but from before. From those early months when she was an infant, when Clara might have visited, held her, been present before everything fell apart. Infant memory was supposed to be impossible, erased by the brain's development. But Noah had seen too many impossible things in the past 24 hours to dismiss anything out of hand. He texted back, "Tell her we're safe. Tell her the woman in her dreams is real, and she's a good person. And Mrs. Chen, thank you for everything." The response came quickly. "You are a good father, Noah. Whatever storm is coming, you will protect your daughter. I know this." Noah pocketed his phone and settled into the room's single chair, positioning himself so he could see both the door and the window. Sleep would be impossible tonight, but that was fine. He'd gone longer without rest during his military years. His body knew how to function on adrenaline and vigilance. Across the room, Clara stirred in her sleep, murmuring something incomprehensible. Noah watched her for a moment, this stranger who'd become an ally in the span of hours. This woman whose genetic connection to Lily made her family whether they'd planned it or not. Some truths are too dangerous to know, the anonymous email had warned. But some truths, Noah thought, were too dangerous to ignore. Tomorrow, they would get Sarah's letter. Tomorrow, they would start unraveling the conspiracy that had shaped 8 years of lies, death, and hidden connections. Tomorrow, they would move from defense to offense. But tonight, in this rundown motel room that smelled of cigarettes and desperation, they would rest. Because in Noah's experience, the calm before the battle was as important as the battle itself. And the battle, he knew with absolute certainty, was coming. Outside, a car pulled into the motel parking lot, its headlights sweeping across the curtained window before cutting out. Noah's hand went instinctively to his waistband, fingers closing around the small tactical knife he'd carried since Afghanistan. Not much against guns, but better than nothing. The car door opened and closed. Footsteps approached, then passed their room, continuing to a unit 3 doors down. A prostitute and her client, negotiating terms in hushed voices. Noah exhaled slowly, forcing his muscles to relax. He was seeing threats everywhere now, shadows turning into enemies in his peripheral vision. It was the combat mindset reasserting itself, the hypervigilance that had kept him alive in Kabul but made normal life feel like sleepwalking. Except this wasn't combat paranoia, this was real. The threats were actual. And somewhere out there in the city's darkness, people with resources and ruthlessness were planning their next move. Noah checked his phone one more time. 12:47 a.m. In 6 hours, the bank would open. In 7 hours, they'd have Sarah's letter and whatever secrets it contained. He settled deeper into the chair and closed his eyes, not sleeping but resting, his mind running through tactical scenarios while his body recovered from the day's stresses. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed, police or ambulance, it was impossible to tell. The sound of a city that never truly slept, where violence and tragedy played out in endless rotation while most people dreamed peacefully, unaware of the darkness at the edges of their comfortable lives. Noah had spent his entire adult life standing at those edges, facing the darkness so others didn't have to. He'd done it in deserts overseas, and he'd continued doing it in different forms after returning home. But this time, the darkness wasn't in some foreign land. It was here, woven into the fabric of his own life, touching the person he loved most in the world. This time, it was personal. And this time, Noah Grant thought as his hand tightened around the knife's handle, the darkness was going to lose. Dawn broke gray and cold over the city, filtering through the motel room's thin curtains like a reluctant promise. Noah hadn't slept, but his body felt ready. Combat-trained muscles knew how to draw energy from anticipation instead of rest. Across the room, Clara was still curled under the blanket, her breathing deep and even. He let her sleep another 20 minutes before gently touching her shoulder. "Clara, time to move." She woke instantly, eyes snapping open with the clarity of someone accustomed to high-pressure decisions. No grogginess, no confusion, just immediate alertness. "What time is it?" 6:30. Bank opens at 8. "We need to get there early, scout the location, make sure we're not walking into an ambush." Clara sat up, running fingers through her tangled hair. "Do you really think they'll be waiting for us?" "I think they've been ahead of us at every turn so far. The building lockdown, knowing about Lily, having detailed intelligence on your security protocols. Someone's feeding them information, which means they might know about the letter too." Noah moved to the window, peering through a gap in the curtains at the parking lot below. A few cars, all empty. No obvious surveillance. "We assume they know everything and plan accordingly." "Paranoia is a survival strategy," Clara said, standing and stretching. Her suit was wrinkled, makeup smudged, but her voice carried steady determination. "I can work with that." They left the motel separately, Clara first while Noah watched for tails, then Noah 5 minutes later after confirming the area was clear. They met 3 blocks away at a 24-hour diner where Noah had arranged to meet Marcus. His old squad leader was already there, occupying a corner booth with clear sightlines to all entrances. Marcus Webb had put on maybe 15 pounds since discharge, but he still moved with the controlled precision of a soldier. His dark eyes assessed Clara in a single glance, not hostile, but thoroughly evaluating. "So this is the CEO worth going to war for," Marcus said as they slid into the booth. "Marcus Webb, Clara Sterling," Noah made the introduction quickly. "Situation update?" Marcus pulled out a tablet and tapped the screen, bringing up a satellite view of the bank and surrounding area. "First National, downtown branch, 3 entrances, main lobby, employee entrance on the west side, parking garage underground. I've got Rodriguez positioned across the street in a coffee shop, Chen in a vehicle 2 blocks south. They'll maintain overwatch while you're inside." "What about police presence?" Claire asked. "Light. 1 patrol car makes rounds every 40 minutes. Next pass should be at 0820, so you'll want to be inside and clear before then." Marcus zoomed in on the bank's main entrance. Standard security, metal detectors, 2 guards, cameras. Nothing you can't handle if it stays routine. "And if it doesn't stay routine," Noah pressed, "then Rodriguez and Chen provide extraction while I run interference. We've got a safe house lined up in Red Hook, completely off the books. You get into trouble, you head there and we regroup. Marcus looked at Clara. No offense, Ms. Sterling, but your face has been on magazine covers. You're recognizable. Going into a public bank is high risk. Which is why I called ahead, Clara said, pulling out her phone and showing them an email. I contacted the branch manager last night, explained I needed to access my deposit box before normal business hours due to a family emergency. He agreed to open early for me at 7:45. We'll be in and out before the main doors unlock. Marcus raised an eyebrow, impressed. Smart. Limits witnesses and exposure time. I didn't build a billion-dollar company by being stupid, Mr. Webb, Claire replied with a slight smile. Marcus, and yeah, I can see that. He slid the tablet across to Noah. Route maps, fallback positions, and emergency contacts are all loaded. You've got my number on speed dial. Anything feels wrong, you call it, and we move. Noah studied the maps, committing every detail to memory. Alley access points, traffic patterns, potential choke points. His mind automatically calculated angles of fire, cover positions, escape vectors. The tactical thinking he'd tried to leave behind in Afghanistan was flooding back with disturbing ease. They spent another 15 minutes reviewing contingencies before Marcus stood. Rodriguez and Chen are in position. I'll be mobile, circling the perimeter. You've got a 30-minute window from 07:45 to 08:15. After that, the bank fills with employees and customers, and extraction becomes exponentially harder. Understood, Noah said. Marcus paused, his hand on Noah's shoulder. Brother, I don't know what you've stumbled into, but it smells like black ops, the kind of thing that has government fingerprints all over it. You sure you want to keep pushing? Noah thought of Lily, of her drawings and dreams, of Sarah's death in an alley that had never made sense. I don't have a choice anymore. Everyone has a choice. But Marcus squeezed his shoulder and nodded. Just make sure you come back alive to your daughter. She's already lost one parent. After Marcus left, Noah and Clara sat in silence for a moment, nursing coffee that had gone lukewarm. The diner was nearly empty, just a truck driver at the counter and a homeless man sleeping in a back booth. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in harsh, clinical brightness. Noah, Clara said quietly, what Marcus said about government involvement, do you think he's right? Michael mentioned the Department of Defense in his journal. If he discovered military technology being diverted and took it to the FBI, that would have triggered an investigation at the highest levels. Noah traced patterns in the condensation on his water glass. But if the people involved were powerful enough, connected enough, they could have buried that investigation, eliminated witnesses, made problems disappear. Including Michael, Noah confirmed, and later, Sarah, anyone who knew the truth. Clara's jaw tightened. So we're not just dealing with criminals, we're dealing with people who have the authority and resources of the government behind them. Maybe, or maybe we're dealing with people who used to have that authority and are now operating outside it, using skills and connections from their official days. Noah met her eyes. Either way, they're dangerous, and they've already shown they're willing to kill. Then why haven't they killed us yet? Clara asked. They could have taken us in my office building, could have run us off the road last night. Why the warnings, the surveillance, the threats? It was a good question, and Noah had been turning it over in his mind all night. Because they don't know what we know. They're not sure if we've already made copies of evidence, stashed documents with lawyers, set up dead man switches. Killing us might trigger the very exposure they're trying to prevent. So they're trying to scare us off instead. For now, but patience has limits. Noah checked his watch. 7:30. We need to move. They left cash on the table and exited the diner, walking 3 blocks to where Noah had parked his car in a public garage. The morning streets were beginning to fill with commuters, people heading to jobs and lives that didn't involve conspiracy and danger. Noah envied them their normalcy. The drive to the bank took 12 minutes through awakening traffic. Noah parked 2 blocks away in a municipal lot, positioning the car nose out for quick escape. They walked the rest of the way, Noah's eyes constantly scanning for threats, while Clara maintained a calm, professional demeanor that gave away nothing. First National Bank occupied the ground floor of a 15-story office building in the financial district. Through the glass doors, Noah could see lights on inside, but the main lobby was still dark. A side entrance bore a small sign. Branch manager, by appointment only. Clara knocked twice. A moment later, a man in his 50s opened the door, thinning hair, wire-rimmed glasses, the slightly harried expression of someone who'd agreed to come in early and was regretting it. "Ms. Sterling," he said, extending his hand. "Richard Pemberton, branch manager. Please, come in." They stepped into a small administrative corridor, Pemberton locking the door behind them. "I apologize for the early hour inconvenience, but I appreciate your flexibility with the family emergency. If you'll follow me to the vault area." They walked through the darkened bank, past teller stations and loan officer desks, toward the heavy security door that led to the deposit box vault. Pemberton swiped his access card and entered a code, and the door clicked open with a pneumatic hiss. "Do you have your key and identification?" Pemberton asked Clara. For a moment, Noah's heart stopped. They hadn't discussed this. Clara wouldn't have a key to Sarah's deposit box. But Clara reached into her purse and pulled out both her driver's license and a small key. "Box 337, she said smoothly. "It was registered under my sister-in-law's name, but after her death, ownership transferred to me as next of kin." Pemberton examined the documents, comparing signatures on his computer screen. Noah held his breath, but apparently Clara had done her homework. Whatever strings she'd pulled, whatever favors she'd called in, the paperwork was in order. "Everything appears correct," Pemberton said. "Right this way." The vault was a long room lined with deposit boxes in various sizes. Pemberton led them to box 337, a medium-sized unit about halfway down the left wall. He inserted his master key and stepped back. "Take all the time you need. I'll be at my desk. Just let yourselves out when you're finished. The interior door will unlock from the inside." Once they were alone, Clara inserted the key and turned it. The box slid out smoothly, and Noah lifted it from its slot. It was heavier than expected, containing more than just a letter. They carried the box to a small privacy booth at the end of the vault, a curtained alcove with a table and chair. Noah set the box down and opened it. Inside was an envelope addressed in Sarah's handwriting. "For Lily, when she's old enough to understand." But underneath the letter were other items: a flash drive, a small leather notebook, a photograph, and a burner phone still in its packaging. Noah reached for the letter first, his hands trembling slightly as he broke the seal. Sarah's handwriting covered 3 pages, the script growing shakier toward the end. "My darling Lily," it began. "If you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and your father has decided you're ready for the truth. I'm so sorry, baby girl. Sorry for the secrets, sorry for the lies, sorry for leaving you so soon. But most of all, I'm sorry that you were born into a story that was never fair to you. Your biological father was named Michael Sterling. He was brilliant, kind, and brave. Everything I wasn't. We met when I was working undercover for the FBI, investigating defense contractor fraud. I was Agent Sarah Morrison then, not Sarah Grant. Michael was my target's younger brother, an engineer who had no idea his company was selling technology to enemies of the United States. I was supposed to get close to him, gather evidence, and disappear. But I fell in love with him instead. And when Michael discovered what his own father and company executives were doing, he came to me. Together, we gathered proof: shipping manifests, payment records, communications with foreign buyers. We were going to expose everything. But they found out. Someone tipped them off. I still don't know who. And they came after Michael. They made his death look like an accident, but I knew. I was 8 months pregnant, terrified, and completely alone. The FBI handler I'd been working with had gone dark. No one was answering my calls. I realized the conspiracy went deeper than I'd thought, that people within the Bureau itself were compromised. So I ran. I gave birth to you in a hospital using fake credentials, then put you up for adoption to protect you. But the moment I held you, I knew I couldn't let you go. I fought to get you back, and when I met Noah Grant, a good man, a soldier, someone strong enough to protect us both, I thought maybe we could have a normal life. I was wrong. They never stopped looking, and now they've found me. By the time you read this, I'll probably be dead. But you need to know the truth, Lily. You need to know that your father died trying to do the right thing, and I spent 8 years running to keep you safe. The flash drive contains copies of everything Michael and I gathered. The notebook has contacts, journalists, federal prosecutors, military investigators who weren't compromised. If anything happens to me, these people can help. And Lily, there's something else you need to know. You have an aunt, Michael's sister, Clara Sterling. I've been watching her from a distance for years. She's good, like her brother was. If you ever need help, if Noah can't protect you alone, go to her. She doesn't know you exist, doesn't know about any of this, but I believe she'll help you when the time comes. I love you, baby girl, more than I ever knew it was possible to love another person. Whatever happens, whatever you learn about me, please know that every choice I made was to keep you safe. Your mother, Sarah Morrison Grant. Noah's vision blurred as he finished reading. He handed the letter to Clara, whose own eyes were wet with tears by the time she reached the end. She knew, Clara whispered. Sarah knew about me, was watching me. And she trusted you, Noah said. Even though you'd never met, she believed you'd protect Lily if it came to that. Clara wiped her eyes and looked at the other items in the box. We need to see what's on that flash drive. Noah pulled out his phone and inserted the drive into an adapter. The drive contained dozens of files, scanned documents, photographs of shipping containers, audio recordings. He opened one of the documents at random and felt his blood run cold. It was a shipping manifest dated 8 years ago, showing 3 Prometheus targeting systems being diverted from a military base in Germany to a private warehouse in Istanbul. The authorization signatures at the bottom included names Noah recognized: a lieutenant general who'd been forced into early retirement 4 years ago, a defense contractor CEO who'd committed suicide 2 years after that, and someone whose name made Noah's hands go numb: Admiral Richard Garrett, currently serving as Deputy Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Jesus Christ, Noah breathed. This goes to the top of military intelligence. Clara was looking at another document, her face pale. These aren't just sales records, they're deployment logs. The diverted systems were used in strikes in Syria, Yemen, Somalia, strikes that killed civilians, hundreds of them. They looked at each other, the weight of what they'd discovered crushing down on them. This wasn't just about fraud or illegal arms sales. This was about war crimes, about American military technology being used to commit atrocities, with the profits and blame laundered through proxy groups while senior officials maintained deniability. Michael died for this, Clara said, and Sarah. They died because they were going to expose this. And now we have the evidence, Noah said, which makes us... The lights in the vault went out. Noah's military training kicked in instantly. He grabbed Clara's arm and pulled her down behind the privacy booth's small table just as the vault door exploded inward with a deafening crash. Through the ringing in his ears, Noah heard boots on tile, multiple operators moving with tactical precision. "Contact front," someone shouted. "Vault area, 2 targets." Flashlight beams cut through the darkness, sweeping methodically down the rows of deposit boxes. Noah counted at least 4 operators, probably more in the corridor beyond. This wasn't a snatch and grab. This was a kill team. He pulled out his phone and speed-dialed Marcus, keeping his voice to a barely audible whisper. "Compromised. Multiple hostiles. Need extraction now." "Copy." Marcus's voice came back instantly. "Rodriguez is 2 minutes out. Hold position." 2 minutes. Noah looked around the privacy booth, calculating odds and options. They had no weapons, no armor, no chance in a direct confrontation, but they had darkness, surprise, and the vault's layout. "Stay low," he whispered to Clara. "When I move, you run for the emergency exit at the back of the vault. Red door, far corner." "What are you—" "Just do it." Noah grabbed one of the larger deposit boxes from a nearby shelf and hurled it hard toward the opposite side of the vault. It crashed into the wall with a metallic clang, and immediately, all the flashlight beams swung toward the sound. "There. Southwest corner." As the operators converged on the false contact, Noah shoved Clara toward the back wall. "Go! Now!" They sprinted through the darkness, Noah's hand on Clara's back, guiding her between the rows. Behind them, he heard shouts of confusion as the operators realized their mistake. "Contact moving! North wall!" Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes strobing the vault like nightmare lightning. Bullets sparked off metal boxes and concrete walls. Noah felt something tug at his jacket. a round passing close enough to touch, and pushed Clara harder. The emergency exit was ahead, barely visible in the chaos. Clara slammed into it first, and the door burst open onto a concrete stairwell. They tumbled through as more bullets chewed into the doorframe behind them. The stairwell led up, not down. Noah realized they were heading into the office building above the bank rather than out to street level. Not ideal, but better than being trapped in the vault with professional killers. They took the stairs 3 at a time, Noah's lungs burning. Behind them, the vault door crashed open again, the operators in pursuit. Clara was in heels, slowing her down. And Noah made a split-second decision. He scooped her up, ignoring her startled gasp, and carried her up the remaining flights with strength born of desperation. They burst onto the 5th floor and into a maze of cubicles. The office was dark, empty this early in the morning. Noah set Clara down and they ran through the workspace, overturning chairs and trash cans behind them to slow pursuit. "Where are we going?" Clara gasped. "Roof. Rodriguez can extract from there." But as they reached the far stairwell, 3 more operators appeared from the floor above, cutting off their escape. Noah skidded to a halt, reversing direction with Clara in tow. They were boxed in, killers below, killers above, and no way out. "This way," Clara said suddenly, pulling him toward a large conference room. She slammed the door behind them and locked it, a futile gesture that would buy them maybe 30 seconds. The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Noah looked down at the street 5 stories below and saw Marcus's vehicle screeching to a stop at the curb. His old squad leader emerged with Rodriguez, both men carrying equipment bags. Noah grabbed a chair and hurled it at the window. The safety glass spiderwebbed but didn't break. He hit it again, then a 3rd time, and finally, the window shattered outward in a cascade of glittering fragments. "Tell me you have a rope in that deposit box," Clara said with gallows humor. "Better." Noah pointed down at Marcus, who was pulling something from his equipment bag. "Fire department air cushion. We jump. It breaks the fall." "You're insane." "You have a better idea?" The conference room door shuddered as someone hit it from outside. Once, twice. The lock wouldn't hold much longer. Clara looked at the broken window, at the street below, at Noah's face. "If I die, I'm haunting you forever." "Deal." They climbed onto the window ledge just as the door burst open. Noah glimpsed black tactical gear, raised weapons, faces hidden behind masks. He grabbed Clara's hand. "On 3. 1, 2. They jumped. The fall felt endless. Wind screaming past, ground rushing up with terrible finality. Noah heard Clara scream, heard his own voice joining hers, and then they hit the air cushion with an impact that drove every bit of breath from his lungs. For a moment, the world went black. Then Marcus was there, pulling them off the cushion and shoving them toward the vehicle. "Move! Move! Move!" Gunfire erupted from the building above. Marcus and Rodriguez returned fire, giving Noah and Clara precious seconds to scramble into the back of the vehicle. Rodriguez jumped into the driver's seat while Marcus provided covering fire, then dove into the passenger side. The vehicle screamed away from the curb, tires smoking. Through the rear window, Noah saw operators emerging from the building, raising weapons. But Rodriguez was already turning corners, putting buildings between them and the shooters. "Everyone intact?" Marcus shouted from the front. "Define intact," Clara managed, her voice shaky but functional. Noah did a quick self-assessment. Bruised ribs, possibly cracked, left shoulder screaming with pain, but nothing bleeding, nothing broken. "We're alive." "Status on the package." Noah pulled the flash drive from his pocket, relief flooding through him. He'd managed to grab it before they ran. "Secure, but they know we have it now. Then we need to go dark, deep dark." Marcus was already on his phone, making calls. "I'm activating the Red Hook safe house. You two stay there, don't contact anyone, don't use credit cards or phones. We'll bring supplies." "What about Lily?" Noah's heart clenched. If they know we have the evidence, they'll go after her next. "Already on it," Rodriguez called from the driver's seat. "Chen's en route to Brooklyn now. He'll extract your daughter and Mrs. Chen, bring them to a separate safe house. They'll be protected." "By who?" Noah demanded. "By 6 former Marines who owe me their lives," Rodriguez said grimly. "Your girl will be safer than the president." They drove for 40 minutes through a deliberately confusing route, doubling back, switching vehicles twice, ensuring no one could track them. By the time they pulled into an industrial area near the Brooklyn waterfront, Noah was fairly confident they'd lost any pursuit. The safe house was a converted warehouse that looked abandoned from outside, but was surprisingly well appointed inside. Secure communications, multiple exits, enough supplies to last weeks if necessary. Marcus pulled Noah aside while Rodriguez helped Clara to a chair. "Brother, you need to know what you're up against. I made some calls while you were in that bank. The operators who hit you weren't local contractors. They were Ghost Unit." The name meant nothing to Noah for a moment. Then memory clicked. Ghost Unit, a classified special operations team that officially didn't exist, used for missions the government couldn't acknowledge. Domestic black ops, political assassinations, operations that required absolute deniability. They're using Ghost Unit on civilians? Noah felt sick. That's illegal, Marcus. That's beyond illegal. Which tells you how badly they want that drive destroyed and you dead. Marcus gripped his shoulders. This isn't a fight you can win, Noah. These people have unlimited resources, no oversight, and the law doesn't apply to them. You need to consider taking Lily and running. New identities, new city, new life. Running didn't save Sarah, Noah said bitterly. She ran for 8 years and they still found her. Then what's your play? Noah looked at Clara, who was examining the flash drive with the intensity of someone solving a critical equation. We expose them. We release everything on that drive, every document, every recording, every piece of evidence. We make it so public, so widespread that killing us won't matter anymore. You'll need a journalist, someone with reach and credibility who can't be silenced or bought. Marcus thought for a moment. I might know someone. Catherine Wheeler, investigative reporter for the Washington Herald. She's broken classified stories before, has protection from the First Amendment. If anyone can run with this story, it's her. Set up a meeting, Noah said. Secure location, heavy security? That'll take time, maybe 24 hours to arrange everything safely. We don't have 24 hours. Then you make time. Marcus's voice was hard. You rushing into this gets you killed and achieves nothing. We do this right, or we don't do it at all. Noah knew he was right, but hated it anyway. 24 hours felt like an eternity when professional killers were hunting them. But patience was part of tactics, and tactical thinking had kept him alive in war zones. It would have to keep him alive now. Clara approached them, holding her phone with a strange expression. We have a problem. I just received an email from someone claiming to know the full truth about Lily's origin, more than what Sarah's letter revealed. It's a trap, Marcus said immediately. Probably, Clara agreed, but look at what they sent as proof. She showed them an attachment, a photograph of Michael Sterling, alive and smiling, standing next to Sarah Morrison. Both of them wore FBI credentials on lanyards around their necks. The photo was dated 9 years ago, months before Michael's supposed death. Sarah was FBI, Noah said. We knew that from the letter, but Michael? He wasn't just an engineer who discovered the conspiracy, Clara said, her voice tight. He was part of the investigation. He and Sarah were working together from the beginning. Which means his death might not have been what we thought, Noah realized. If he was FBI, there would have been resources, protocols, protective measures. He wouldn't have been easy to kill. The email contained a single line of text below the photograph. Michael Sterling is alive. Sarah Grant is alive. They're both in protective custody, and your daughter is the key to finding them. Meet me tomorrow, noon, location to follow. Come alone, or they die for real this time. The words seemed to rearrange reality itself. Noah read them 3 times, 4 times, unable to process the impossible claim they were making. Sarah's alive? His voice came out strangled. That's not possible. I identified her body. I buried her. Did you see her face? Clara asked gently. Noah tried to remember through the haze of grief and shock that had surrounded Sarah's death. The police had warned him the body was badly damaged from the attack. They'd suggested a closed casket, advised him that viewing would only traumatize him further. In his grief-stricken state, he'd agreed, taking their word that the body was his wife. No, he admitted. They said it was too traumatic. that I should remember her as she was. Then it's possible, Clara said. If she was in FBI protective custody, they could have faked her death, used a Jane Doe body from the morgue, manipulated records, created a complete false narrative. But why? Noah's mind reeled. Why let me think she was dead? Why let Lily grow up believing her mother was gone? Because you couldn't lie to a child convincingly, Marcus said bluntly. Kids see through deception. If Lily believed Sarah was dead, so would anyone watching you. Perfect cover. This is insane. Noah paced the warehouse floor, trying to contain the rage building in his chest. She let me bury an empty casket. Let me tell our 6-year-old daughter that her mother was never coming home. 2 years of grief, 2 years of Lily crying herself to sleep, 2 years of... He couldn't finish the sentence. Clara put a hand on his arm. If she's alive, if this is real, then she did it to protect Lily, to protect you. If Ghost Unit was hunting her and Michael, faking their deaths was the only way to make the hunters stop. Then why come forward now? Noah demanded. Why reach out after 2 years? Because we found the evidence, Clara said. Because we opened that deposit box and took the flash drive. We activated the tripwire Sarah left behind. Now they know we're in danger, and they're trying to protect us the only way they can. Marcus cleared his throat. Or it's a trap designed to draw you out into the open, where Ghost Unit can finish what they started at the bank. You walk into that meeting tomorrow, you might not walk out. Noah looked at the email again, at the photograph of Sarah's smiling face. If there was even a chance she was alive, if Lily's mother had survived and was somewhere out there waiting, we have to go, he said quietly. We have to take the meeting. Brother, think about this. I am thinking. Noah's voice was steel. If Sarah's alive and we don't show, Ghost Unit might kill her for real this time. If it's a trap and we spring it, at least we'll know what we're facing. Either way, staying here and hiding doesn't move us forward. Clara nodded slowly. He's right. We can't win this by being defensive. We need to force their hand, make them react to us instead of us reacting to them. Marcus looked between them, frustration and resignation warring on his face. You're both going to get killed, and I'm going to have to explain to your daughter why her father ran headfirst into danger. No, Noah said. You're going to help us survive it, because that's what we do. We run toward the danger and we come out the other side. For a long moment, Marcus didn't respond. Then he sighed heavily and pulled out his phone. Fine, but we do this with every advantage we can manufacture. Rodriguez, start pulling together tactical gear. Chen, expedite the extraction of Noah's daughter and establish the secondary safe house. I'll coordinate with Wheeler about the story in case we don't make it back. She'll need instructions on how to release the evidence if we're compromised. Thank you, Noah said. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when we're all still breathing tomorrow afternoon. They spent the rest of the day preparing. Marcus acquired weapons, pistols for Noah and Clara, tactical vests, communications equipment. Rodriguez mapped potential meeting locations based on tactical advantages. Chen reported successful extraction of Lily and Mrs. Chen, both secure and unaware of the larger situation. Through it all, Noah kept looking at that photograph of Sarah. Her smile seemed to reach across the years, across death itself, promising that impossible things could be real, that hope could survive even the darkest circumstances. As evening fell and the warehouse filled with shadows, Clara sat beside Noah on an old couch that smelled of mildew and abandonment. Are you okay? She asked. No, Noah said honestly. I thought I'd lost her. Thought Lily had lost her. For 2 years, I've been trying to hold our broken family together, trying to be enough for a daughter who needed her mother. And now I find out Sarah might have been alive this whole time, watching from a distance, unable to come home. She was protecting you, Clara said softly. Both of you. That's what parents do. You sound like you know from experience, Clara smiled sadly. My adoptive father, the one who raised me, he wasn't a good man in a lot of ways. Built his company on morally questionable contracts, cared more about profits than people. But when I was 16 and developed a rare heart condition, he spent every penny he had on treatments, remortgaged everything, called in every favor. And when the best doctors in the country said there was nothing more they could do, He found an experimental program in Germany and moved us there for 2 years. Did it work? Noah asked. I'm here, aren't I? She touched her chest lightly. I have a mechanical valve now. Has to be monitored, but it keeps me alive. And my father died 6 months after we returned to the States. The stress of those years, the financial strain, the constant worry, it broke something in him. Her voice caught. He protected me even though it killed him. That's what love does. It makes impossible choices seem like the only choices. Noah reached over and took her hand. I'm glad you survived. Glad you're here. Me too. Clara squeezed his fingers. And Noah? Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever we find out about Sarah and Michael, you need to know that Lily is lucky to have you. You're a good father, the kind who runs into danger to protect his child, who makes impossible choices to keep her safe. I'm terrified, Noah admitted. Terrified of walking into that meeting. Terrified of finding out Sarah's alive and being angry at her. Terrified of finding out it's all a trap and I've endangered everyone I care about for nothing. Fear means you're smart enough to understand the stakes, Clara said. It's the people who aren't afraid who get killed. They sat in companionable silence for a while, hands linked, drawing strength from shared understanding. Outside the warehouse windows, Brooklyn's industrial landscape settled into night, and somewhere in the darkness, people were planning to kill them. But Noah had faced death before, had walked into ambushes and emerged alive through skill and determination. Tomorrow would be no different. Tomorrow, he would face whatever truth was waiting, ghost or trap, salvation or destruction, and he would survive. For Lily. For the life they'd built from tragedy and secrets. For the family that was somehow expanding even as it threatened to fall apart completely. His phone buzzed with a new message. The location for tomorrow's meeting, Riverside Industrial Park, Warehouse 7, noon sharp. Noah showed the message to Marcus, who immediately began analyzing the location on his laptop. Old manufacturing district, multiple ingress and egress routes. Good sightlines from elevated positions. He looked up. Could be worse. Could be better. We'll make it work. What's the plan? Clara asked. Rodriguez and I will establish overwatch positions before you arrive. Chen will be mobile, ready for emergency extraction. You two walk in visible and clean. No hidden weapons they'll detect. No aggressive posturing. Let them think they have the advantage. Marcus pulled up building schematics. But we'll have you covered every step. Any threat emerges, we light it up. And if Sarah really is there, Noah pressed, if this isn't a trap, then we get her and Michael to safety, and we have 2 more witnesses who can help expose this conspiracy. Marcus closed his laptop. Get some sleep, both of you. Tomorrow's going to be hard. But sleep didn't come easy. Noah lay on a cot in the warehouse's back room, staring at the ceiling and thinking about Lily's drawings, the woman with long dark hair who appeared in his daughter's dreams. Clara, the Aunt Lily, had somehow known existed before Noah himself learned the truth. What if the drawings weren't just about Clara? What if Lily had been seeing Sarah too, somewhere in her subconscious mind, sensing her mother's presence across whatever distance separated them? Children were supposed to be resilient, but Noah wondered if resilience was just another word for carrying invisible scars. Lily had lost her mother, or thought she had, at 6 years old. Had spent 2 years living with absence and grief. If Sarah was alive, if she walked back into their lives tomorrow, would Lily forgive her? Could an 8-year-old child understand the impossible choices adults made in the name of protection? Noah didn't know, but he was about to find out. Across the warehouse, he heard Clara moving restlessly on her own cot. Neither of them was sleeping, both caught in the liminal space between one version of reality and whatever new truth tomorrow would bring. Noah? Clara's voice drifted through the darkness. Are you awake? Yeah. If they're alive, Sarah and Michael, and we get them back safely. What happens then? To us, I mean. To Lily's family. Noah considered the question carefully. I guess we figure it out together. All of us. Because whatever happens, you're Lily's aunt, your family now. That doesn't change. Thank you, Clara whispered. I've been alone for so long. Since my father died, since Michael disappeared, the idea of having family again, of being part of something, it means more than I can say. Get some sleep, Clara. Tomorrow we reclaim what was stolen from us. Tomorrow we fight back, she agreed. And in the darkness, listening to the distant sounds of the city that never quite slept, Noah Grant prepared himself for the meeting that would either restore his family or destroy them all. Morning arrived with rain, the kind of cold October drizzle that turned the city gray and made everything feel heavier. Noah stood at the warehouse window, watching water streak down the glass, his coffee untouched and growing cold in his hand. Behind him, Marcus and Rodriguez were performing final weapons checks, the metallic sounds of slides and magazines punctuating the silence like a countdown. Clara emerged from the bathroom, her hair pulled back and her face bare of makeup. She'd changed into dark jeans and a black jacket, practical clothing that wouldn't restrict movement. She looked younger without her professional armor, more vulnerable, but her eyes carried the same determination Noah had seen when she jumped from that fifth-floor window. "Second thoughts?" she asked, coming to stand beside him. "About 100 of them," Noah admitted, "but we're past the point of turning back." Were we ever really at that point? Clara's reflection in the glass smiled without humor. "The moment I took that DNA test, the moment you accepted my job offer, we were committed to this path. We just didn't know it yet." Marcus approached, carrying 2 tactical vests. "These are lightweight Kevlar. Won't stop rifle rounds, but they'll give you a fighting chance against pistol fire. Wear them under your jackets." Noah took his vest and strapped it on, the familiar weight settling across his chest like old memories. He'd worn body armor in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in a dozen other places where staying alive required layers of protection. He'd hoped to never wear it again. Hope, apparently, was a luxury he couldn't afford. "Communication devices," Rodriguez said, handing them each a small earpiece. "You'll be able to hear us, and we'll hear everything you say. If things go sideways, we'll be on you in 30 seconds. "Where will you be positioned?" Clara asked, fitting the earpiece into place. Marcus pulled up a satellite image on his tablet. "Rodriguez will be on the roof of Warehouse 5, 200 meters east with a clear sightline to the entrance of Warehouse 7. I'll be in a vehicle at the South Access Road, ready to provide mobile support or extraction. Chen's maintaining a perimeter watch, making sure nobody boxes us in." "And if they bring aerial assets?" Noah asked. "Drones, helicopters?" "Then we adapt and overcome, same as always." Marcus met his eyes. "Brother, I know this feels like walking into an execution, but you've got some of the best operators I know watching your back. We're not going to let anything happen to you." "It's not me I'm worried about." Noah's thoughts went to Lily, safe in Chen's secondary location, but still within reach if things went completely wrong. "If this goes bad, if they take us, promise me you'll get my daughter somewhere they can't find her. New identity, new life, whatever it takes." "You have my word," Marcus said solemnly, "but it's not going to come to that. We're bringing you both back alive." They left the warehouse at 11:15, taking separate vehicles to avoid presenting a single target. Noah drove with Clara while Marcus and Rodriguez deployed to their positions. The rain had intensified, turning the industrial district into a maze of reflecting puddles and reduced visibility. Riverside Industrial Park had been abandoned for years, a casualty of manufacturing jobs moving overseas. The warehouses stood like empty monuments to a previous economic era, their windows broken and walls covered in graffiti. Warehouse 7 sat at the complex's far end, partially collapsed, but still structurally sound enough to be dangerous. Noah parked 3 blocks away, and they walked the remaining distance, water soaking through their clothes. His hand kept drifting toward his waistband where he used to carry his service weapon, finding only empty space. They'd left the firearms behind. Walking into the meeting armed would be seen as aggression, would give whoever was waiting an excuse to shoot first and explain later. "Rodriguez is in position," Marcus's voice came through the earpiece. "I count no visible hostiles, but there are at least 3 vehicles parked in the warehouse's interior. Can't see inside from this angle." "Copy," Noah said quietly. "We're 2 minutes out." Clara's hand found his, squeezing once before letting go. They rounded the final corner and Warehouse 7 came into full view. The massive sliding door stood partially open, revealing darkness within. No guards visible, no obvious threats, just an opening that looked like a mouth waiting to swallow them. "Last chance to walk away," Noah said. "I didn't come this far to walk away now." Clara's voice was steady. Let's find out what truth is waiting for us. They approached the entrance together, rain streaming down their faces. As they reached the threshold, a voice called out from the darkness within. Noah Grant and Clara Sterling. We've been expecting you. Please, come inside. Slowly. The voice was female, cultured, with the flat accent of someone who'd been trained to eliminate regional markers. Noah and Clara exchanged a glance, then stepped into the warehouse. The interior was larger than it appeared from outside. A vast, empty space broken by rusting machinery and support pillars. Lights had been set up in the center, illuminating a clear area where a woman stood waiting. She was in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled into a severe bun and eyes that assessed them with professional detachment. She wore a dark suit that screamed federal agent, and her posture suggested military training. But it was the two people standing behind her that made Noah's heart stop. Sarah stood there, alive and whole, looking exactly as she had 2 years ago. Same dark hair, same delicate features, same eyes that Noah had looked into on their wedding day and promised to love forever. She wore jeans and a sweater, civilian clothes, and her hands were clasped in front of her like she was physically restraining herself from moving. Beside her stood a man Noah recognized from photographs. Michael Sterling, Clara's supposedly dead brother. He was tall, lean, with the same dark eyes as his sister and an expression that mixed guilt with determination. Noah! Sarah's voice broke on his name, tears streaming down her face. God, Noah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Noah felt like he'd been punched in the chest. Every emotion he'd buried for 2 years came roaring back. Grief, rage, love, betrayal, all of it crashing together into something too large to contain. You're alive, he managed, his voice hollow. You let me think you were dead. Let Lily think. He couldn't finish, couldn't push words past the tightness in his throat. It was the only way to protect you both, Sarah said desperately. If they thought I was dead, they'd stop hunting. They'd leave you and Lily alone. Well, that worked out great, Noah said bitterly, because they tried to kill us yesterday, sent a ghost unit team to a bank to murder us in broad daylight. So whatever protection you thought faking your death would provide, it failed. The woman in the suit stepped forward. Mr. Grant, Ms. Sterling, my name is Director Helen Cordova. I'm with the FBI's Counterintelligence Division. I've been Sarah and Michael's handler for the past 8 years, and I owe you both an explanation and an apology. You can start with why you've been lying to us, Clara said, her voice tight with controlled anger. She was staring at her brother like she couldn't quite believe he was real. Michael, they told me you died in a car accident. I buried you. I mourned you. I know, Michael's voice cracked. Clara, I wanted to tell you so many times, but every contact was a risk. Every communication was potentially traceable. The people we were investigating had reached into the highest levels of government, Director Cordova interrupted smoothly, including my own agency. When Michael and Sarah first brought me their evidence 8 years ago, I realized we were dealing with a conspiracy that went beyond simple arms trafficking. We were looking at systematic corruption within the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, and private defense contractors, people with the power to make problems disappear. So you made them disappear instead, Noah said. Faked their deaths, put them in protective custody, and left everyone else to deal with the grief. It wasn't ideal, Cordova admitted, but it kept them alive long enough to gather more evidence, to build a case that could actually stick. Michael and Sarah have spent 8 years documenting every transaction, every communication, every link in the chain from the diverted weapons to the people who authorized it. Then why reach out now? Clara demanded. Why break your cover after all this time? Because you opened the deposit box, Sarah said. Because you took the flash drive Noah, and the moment you did, you triggered alarms we'd set up in case anyone accessed that evidence. We knew immediately that you'd found it, knew you were in danger. The evidence on that drive is incomplete, Michael added. It was meant as insurance, a dead drop in case something happened to us. But the full documentation, everything needed to actually prosecute these people, is somewhere else. Somewhere only Lily can lead us to. Noah's blood went cold. What do you mean, only Lily? Sarah stepped forward, her hands trembling. Before Michael's fake death, before I went into hiding, we created a failsafe. We knew that if we were both eliminated, there needed to be a way to access the complete evidence. So we hid it in a location only someone with both of our genetic profiles could identify. Genetic profiles? Clara looked confused. I don't understand. The evidence is in a secure storage facility that requires biometric access, Michael explained. Specifically, it requires DNA that matches both mine and Sarah's. Lily is the only person in the world who carries both of our genetic markers. She's the key to the lock we created. You're insane, Noah said flatly. You want to use my 8-year-old daughter to break into some facility? Put her in the middle of this nightmare? We don't have a choice, Director Cordova said. Yesterday's attack on you was orchestrated by Admiral Richard Garrett and his network. They know you have the incomplete evidence, know you're trying to expose them. They'll come after all of you, Noah, Clara, and yes, Lily, until they've eliminated every threat. The only way to protect her is to finish what we started. Release the full evidence, bring down everyone involved, remove the threat permanently. And if we say no, Clara asked, if we take Lily and run, disappear like you did? Then you'll spend the rest of your lives running, Sarah said quietly. And eventually they'll find you. They always do. Trust me, I know. Noah looked at Sarah, at the woman he'd loved and buried and grieved, and felt something inside him break and reform into something harder. Why should I trust you? You've done nothing but lie to me for our entire relationship. Was any of it real, Sarah? Did you ever actually love me, or was I just a convenient soldier to help protect your secret daughter? The pain that crossed Sarah's face looked genuine, but Noah was past trusting his ability to read her. It was real, she whispered. Every moment was real. I know it started as strategy, as choosing someone who could protect Lily. But Noah, I fell in love with you. The way you held her, the way you made her laugh, the way you never questioned my past or pushed me to be anything but who I was. You gave us both a home when we had nothing. Then you should have trusted me with the truth. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. Sarah's tears were flowing freely now. But the moment you knew, you became a target. The moment I shared that burden, I put you in danger. So I carried it alone, and I hated every second of it. That wasn't your choice to make, Noah said, but some of the anger was bleeding out of his voice, replaced by exhaustion and grief. Marcus's voice crackled in Noah's earpiece. Brother, we've got movement on the perimeter, multiple vehicles approaching from the north and east. This meet is about to get complicated. Noah's tactical instincts kicked in immediately. Director Cordova, did you tell anyone about this meeting? Only my immediate team, she said, already reaching for a weapon under her jacket. Why? Because we've got incoming hostiles, Noah said. Multiple vehicles, coordinated approach. Someone knew we'd be here. Michael swore under his breath. Garrett must have surveillance on the director. He knew she'd contact us once you found the evidence. Everyone move, Cordova commanded, pulling a radio from her belt. We've got a compromised location. FBI units respond to Riverside Industrial Park. Officer needs assistance. Multiple armed hostiles. But before anyone could reach the door, the warehouse's far entrance exploded inward with a deafening crash. 3 black SUVs burst through, tires screaming on the concrete floor. Men in tactical gear poured out, weapons raised, moving with the precision of special operations soldiers. Federal agents, drop your weapons, one of them shouted, but it was a formality. These weren't agents. They were Ghost Unit, and they were here to kill everyone who knew too much. Noah grabbed Sarah and pulled her behind a support pillar as gunfire erupted. Clara dove in the opposite direction with Michael, while Director Cordova returned fire with her service weapon. The warehouse became a storm of muzzle flashes and ricocheting bullets. Rodriguez, we need support now, Marcus shouted through the comms. Engaging, Rodriguez responded. And through the chaos, Noah heard the distinctive crack of a precision rifle. One of the Ghost Unit operators dropped, then another. Rodriguez was earning his pay. But there were too many of them. At least a dozen operators, all armed with automatic weapons, all trained to kill efficiently. Noah looked around desperately for anything that could serve as a weapon and spotted a length of rusted pipe near the machinery. Stay here, he told Sarah, then made a running dash for the pipe. Bullets tracked his movement, sparking off metal and concrete. He grabbed the pipe and swung it hard at an operator who'd gotten too close, connecting with the man's helmet hard enough to stagger him. Noah followed up with a strike to the throat, then grabbed the operator's rifle as he fell. Now he was armed. Now he could fight back. He dropped to one knee and fired controlled bursts at the advancing operators, his military training taking over. 3-round bursts, change positions, don't stay static. The rifle felt familiar in his hands despite the years since he'd carried one in combat. Across the warehouse, he saw Clara drag Michael behind cover as bullets chewed into the concrete where they'd been standing. Director Cordova was bleeding from a shoulder wound but still fighting, her shots precise and measured. "Warehouse is surrounded," Chen's voice came through the comms. "I count at least 6 more vehicles on the perimeter. They're trying to box us in." Then we break out," Marcus replied. "Noah, can you reach the east wall? There's a loading dock door that should still function." Noah looked toward the east wall, calculating distance and angles. It was a 30-meter sprint across open ground while under fire. Suicidal odds, except they didn't have a choice. "Sarah," he called out, "we're moving. Stay on me. Stay low. Don't stop for anything." "I'm sorry," she said again, her voice breaking. "Noah, I'm so sorry for everything. Tell me later. Right now. Run!" They broke from cover together, Noah firing behind them to suppress the ghost unit operators. Sarah stayed close, her hand gripping his jacket. Bullets tracked their movement, but Rodriguez's covering fire forced the shooters to keep their heads down. They reached the east wall and Noah slammed his shoulder into the loading dock door. It was rusted shut, refusing to budge. He hit it again, adrenaline lending him strength, and the door finally gave way with a shriek of protesting metal. Rain and gray daylight poured through the opening. Noah pulled Sarah through just as an operator rounded the corner behind them. Noah fired without thinking, putting 2 rounds center mass. The man dropped, and Noah felt nothing. No guilt, no satisfaction, just the cold efficiency of survival. "Clara, Michael, east exit now!" Noah shouted into the comms. They emerged from the warehouse into a nightmare landscape of rain and violence. Ghost unit vehicles were positioned throughout the industrial park, and operators were dismounting, creating a tightening perimeter. Marcus's vehicle came screaming around a corner, providing mobile covering fire. "Get in!" Marcus shouted from the driver's seat. Clara and Michael burst from the warehouse behind them, Cordova bringing up the rear despite her wounded shoulder. They all piled into the vehicle, cramming into spaces not designed for 6 adults. Marcus floored the accelerator before the doors were fully closed. Bullets hammered the vehicle's armored panels as they raced through the industrial park. The windshield spiderwebbed from impacts but held. Marcus drove with controlled aggression, taking corners hard and using the terrain to break line of sight with their pursuers. "Where's Rodriguez?" Noah demanded. "Extracting from his position," Marcus said. "He'll meet us at the secondary rally point." "We can't lead them to Lily," Noah said urgently. "If they follow us to Chen's location—" "They won't," Marcus interrupted. "Chen's already moving your daughter to tertiary backup. She'll be safe." Sarah grabbed Noah's arm. "Lily, I need to see her. Please, Noah. I've been away from my daughter for 2 years. I need to see her." "Your daughter?" Noah's voice was sharp despite the chaos. "You gave up that right when you let me tell her you were dead. When you let her cry herself to sleep night after night asking why Mommy left. That's not fair." "Nothing about this is fair," Noah shouted. "You don't get to walk back into her life and pretend nothing happened. She's 8 years old, Sarah. She's a child who's been traumatized by your death. You can't just—" An explosion cut off his words. One of the pursuing vehicles had hit an IED that Marcus must have planted earlier. The blast wave rocked their vehicle, and through the rear window Noah saw flaming wreckage tumbling through the air. "One down," Marcus said grimly. "But we've still got 3 on our tail." Director Cordova was on her phone shouting orders over the sounds of the chase. "I need immediate air support at these coordinates. Authorization code Delta 779er. We have federal agents under fire from unidentified hostiles." "Your authorization won't work," Michael said bitterly. "Garrett has people throughout the chain of command. Any support you call will either be delayed or redirected." "Then we handle this ourselves," Marcus said. He yanked the wheel hard right, sending them down an alley barely wide enough for the vehicle. Metal screamed as the side mirrors tore off against brick walls. They emerged onto a main road, traffic scattering as Marcus drove against the flow. Behind them, 2 of the Ghost Unit vehicles tried to follow but were blocked by civilian cars. The 3rd vehicle found an alternate route, maintaining pursuit. "Rodriguez, where are you?" Marcus demanded. "Inbound on your 6 o'clock, Rodriguez responded. "Hold steady for 3 seconds." Marcus maintained his current trajectory, and suddenly Rodriguez's vehicle appeared from a side street, T-boning the pursuing Ghost Unit SUV at full speed. The impact was tremendous, sending both vehicles spinning across the intersection in a tangle of crumpled metal and breaking glass. "Rodriguez!" Noah shouted into the comms. "Status!" Silence. Then, after an agonizing moment, "I'm good. Vehicle's totaled, but I'm mobile. Proceeding to rally point on foot." They drove for another 20 minutes through a maze of streets and alleys until Marcus was satisfied they'd lost any remaining pursuit. Finally, he pulled into an underground parking garage and killed the engine. For a moment, nobody moved. They all sat in the crowded vehicle, breathing hard, processing what they'd just survived. Then Clara started laughing, not humor, but the kind of hysteria that comes from facing death and living through it. "We're still alive," she said, disbelief in her voice. "How are we still alive?" "Training and luck," Marcus said. "Mostly luck." Director Cordova was applying pressure to her shoulder wound, her face pale but composed. "We need medical attention and a secure location. My safe house in Queens is compromised," Marcus interrupted. "If Garrett knows about you, he knows about your safe houses. We need somewhere completely off the books." "I have a place," Michael said quietly. "A cabin upstate that Sarah and I bought under false names 8 years ago. It's not in any database, not connected to either of our real identities. We can regroup there." "How far?" Noah asked. 3 hours, maybe less if we push it." Noah looked at Sarah, at the desperation in her eyes, and felt his anger warring with love and betrayal. "Fine, but we're not bringing Lily there until I know it's safe, until I decide if I can trust you with our daughter." "She's my daughter too," Sarah said softly. "Then you should have been there for her," Noah replied, and turned away before he could see the pain his words caused. They transferred to a different vehicle Marcus had stashed in the garage, a nondescript van with no identifying features. Rodriguez joined them 20 minutes later, bruised but functional. Chen confirmed via encrypted message that Lily and Mrs. Chen were secure at the tertiary location with 6 former Marines maintaining a defensive perimeter. The drive upstate was tense and quiet. Sarah kept trying to catch Noah's eye, but he couldn't look at her without feeling the weight of 2 years' worth of grief and anger. Beside her, Michael and Clara were having their own quiet conversation, siblings separated by death and deception trying to find their way back to each other. Director Cordova sat up front with Marcus, coordinating with her few trusted contacts within the FBI, trying to determine the extent of Garrett's reach and influence. From the fragments of conversation Noah overheard, the news wasn't good. Garrett had positioned his people throughout multiple agencies, creating a network that could suppress investigations and eliminate threats with frightening efficiency. They reached the cabin as the sun was setting, painting the forest in shades of amber and shadow. The structure was small but well-maintained, hidden at the end of a dirt road that wound through dense trees. Michael produced a key from a hiding place near the door, and they filed inside. The cabin's interior was rustic but comfortable. 2 bedrooms, a main living area with a fireplace, a kitchen stocked with canned goods and bottled water. Michael and Sarah had clearly used this place regularly, keeping it ready for an emergency exactly like this one. Marcus immediately began securing the perimeter, setting up motion sensors and cameras. Rodriguez established a communication hub, monitoring police and emergency frequencies for any indication they'd been tracked. Chen sent an update that all remained quiet at Lily's location. Noah found himself standing at the cabin's rear window, looking out at the darkening forest and trying to process everything that had happened in the past 48 hours. His entire understanding of reality had been dismantled and rebuilt into something unrecognizable. His dead wife was alive. His daughter was the genetic key to evidence that could bring down powerful conspirators. And he was trapped in a cabin in the woods with the people who'd orchestrated years of deception. Sarah approached cautiously, maintaining distance like he was a wild animal that might bolt. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. "I don't know what we have to say to each other." "Then let me talk and you listen." Sarah's voice carried a plea. "You have every right to hate me. I lied to you, manipulated you, let you believe I was dead. But Noah, you have to understand. I was trying to protect you and Lily. Every day I stayed dead was another day you both stayed alive. And how did that work out? Noah turned to face her. They found us anyway, Sarah. Your plan failed. So what was it all for? What did those 2 years of grief accomplish except to break our daughter's heart? It bought us time, Sarah insisted. Time to gather more evidence. Time to build a case strong enough that killing us wouldn't matter. And it kept you out of Garrett's crosshairs. If he'd known you were aware of the conspiracy, if he'd thought you were helping me, he would have eliminated you years ago. So instead, you let me bury an empty casket and tell Lily her mother was never coming home. Noah's voice was raw. Do you have any idea what that did to her? She drew pictures of you for months, had nightmares, asked me every night when you were coming back, and I had to tell her never. I had to watch my little girl break into pieces and not be able to fix it. Tears were streaming down Sarah's face now. I know. God, Noah, I know. I've thought about nothing else for 2 years. Every day I wanted to come home. Every day I almost broke cover just to hold her one more time. But I couldn't, because the moment I did, I put both of you in mortal danger. We're in mortal danger now, Noah said bitterly, because Clara found the evidence, because you took the bodyguard job and got pulled into this. Sarah stepped closer. Noah, if you'd never met Clara, if you'd just continued living your normal life, you and Lily would have been safe. My death would have stayed dead, and Garrett would have had no reason to come after you. Except Lily is Clara's niece, Noah countered. Once Clara took that DNA test, once she started looking for family, we were always going to be pulled into this. Your plan had an expiration date, Sarah. It just lasted longer than you thought. Sarah had no response to that. She stood there, arms wrapped around herself, looking smaller and more vulnerable than Noah had ever seen her. Michael entered the room, reading the tension between them. We need to discuss what happens next, he said carefully. Garrett knows we're all together now. He knows we have partial evidence and access to the rest. He'll be mobilizing every resource he has to eliminate us before we can go public. Then we go public now, Clara said, joining them from the kitchen. We release what we have on the flash drive, blow this whole thing wide open. The flash drive alone isn't enough, Director Cordova said. She'd bandaged her shoulder and looked steadier despite the blood loss. It shows the diverted weapons and some of the transactions, but it doesn't have the complete chain of command. It doesn't prove Garrett's direct involvement. Without the full evidence package, a good lawyer will argue the documents are incomplete, taken out of context, possibly fabricated. Then we get the full package, Noah said. You said it requires Lily's DNA to access. The storage facility is in Canada, Michael explained. Montreal, specifically. We set it up with a private security company that specializes in protecting sensitive materials for whistleblowers. The vault requires biometric authentication from someone carrying both my and Sarah's genetic markers. How does that work exactly? Clara asked. Blood sample processed through their analysis system. If the DNA shows markers from both parents, the vault opens. Michael pulled out his phone and showed them photos of the facility. It's designed to prevent unauthorized access even if someone kidnaps one of us and tries to force entry. The only way to open it is with Lily's willing participation. Absolutely not, Noah said immediately. I'm not taking my 8-year-old daughter across international borders into a facility that high-value targets are protecting. She's been through enough. Noah's right, Marcus said from the doorway. Taking the kid is too risky. There has to be another way. There isn't, Sarah said quietly. We designed it that way specifically. If there were another way, Garrett could exploit it. This was meant to be fail-safe, the only key that couldn't be stolen or coerced. Except you're asking us to use a child as a key, Clara said sharply. A child who doesn't understand what she's opening or why people want to kill her for it. We don't have a choice, Michael started. Everyone keeps saying that, Noah interrupted. But there are always choices. And I choose to protect my daughter over exposing your conspiracy. It's not just our conspiracy anymore, Cordova said. Yesterday's attack makes it clear that Garrett considers you all threats. He's not going to stop hunting you just because you refuse to access the evidence. Your only safety lies in bringing him down completely. Then we bring him down without using Lily, Noah said stubbornly. Sarah moved closer, her voice gentle. Noah, what if we let Lily decide? She's smart. She's brave. What if we explain the situation in terms she can understand and let her choose whether to help? She's 8 years old. She can't consent to being put in danger. But she's in danger either way, Sarah pressed. At least this way she has agency. She gets to be part of the solution instead of just a victim being protected. Noah wanted to argue, but some part of him recognized the truth in Sarah's words. Lily had been drawing Clara for months before they met. She'd been having dreams about danger and protection. Maybe some part of her already knew she was connected to something larger, already sensed the threat gathering around their family. If we do this, if she doesn't go anywhere near that facility until we've scouted it, secured it, and confirmed it's not a trap, Noah said. And if at any point she wants to stop, we stop. Her well-being comes before any evidence. Agreed, Sarah said immediately. Noah, I promise you, I would never put our daughter in danger if there were any other option. You already put her in danger, Noah said. The day you chose this path, you put her in danger. Now we're just dealing with the consequences. The words hung in the air like an accusation. Sarah flinched but didn't deny them. Marcus cleared his throat. If we're really doing this, we need to plan it properly. Montreal is a 6-hour drive. We'll need alternate routes, contingency plans, extraction protocols. And we need to move Lily from her current location to somewhere we can stage for the border crossing. I have contacts in Montreal, Cordova said. FBI legal attaché at the consulate owes me favors. I can coordinate support on the Canadian side. No official FBI involvement, Marcus said firmly. If Garrett has reach into your agency, anyone you contact could be compromised. We do this black. No agency support, no official assets, nothing that can be traced back to government resources. That's asking a lot, Cordova said. It's the only way to keep everyone alive, Marcus replied. They spent the next 2 hours planning. Michael sketched out the storage facility's layout from memory. Rodriguez mapped optimal routes to Montreal that avoided major highways and border checkpoints with heavy surveillance. Chen coordinated logistics for moving Lily to a staging location in northern New York State. Through it all, Noah found himself watching Sarah, the way she moved, the way she spoke, looking for signs of the woman he'd loved and married. She was there, underneath the layers of deception and trauma, but changed, hardened by years of hiding, shaped by choices no one should have to make. Around midnight, when the planning session finally broke up and people dispersed to grab a few hours of sleep, Noah stepped outside onto the cabin's porch. The night was clear and cold, stars visible in a way they never were in the city. He heard the door open behind him and knew without turning that it was Sarah. Couldn't sleep either? She asked. Too much adrenaline, too many thoughts. Sarah stood beside him at the railing, careful to maintain space between them. Marcus told me how you've been raising Lily. Said you're an amazing father, that she's lucky to have you. I did what any parent would do, tried to give her stability and love after her world fell apart. You did more than that. You gave her a home when I couldn't. You were there for every nightmare, every school day, every moment I missed. Sarah's voice broke. I'll never be able to thank you enough for that. Or apologize enough. Noah finally looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since the warehouse. She looked older, tired, carrying burdens that showed in the lines around her eyes. What happened to you, Sarah, after you faked your death? Where did you go? Different safe houses, different cities? Michael and I were together most of the time, coordinating with Cordova, gathering evidence piece by piece. We've been building a case against Garrett and his network for 8 years. She leaned against the railing. There were moments when I almost gave up. Times I wanted to walk away, come home to you and Lily, and just accept whatever consequences came. But Michael kept reminding me that giving up meant everyone who died for this truth had died for nothing. How many people died? Too many. Federal agents who got too close to the conspiracy, journalists who started asking the right questions, a congressional aide who found documents he wasn't supposed to see. Sarah's hands tightened on the railing. Garrett has been operating for over a decade, selling American military technology to whoever pays enough. The Prometheus targeting systems were just the beginning. There are weapons, surveillance systems, cyber tools, entire arsenals being diverted and sold to enemies of the United States. And the money? Offshore accounts, shell corporations, laundered through dozens of legitimate businesses. Garrett and his network have stolen hundreds of millions of dollars while arming the people killing American soldiers overseas. Sarah turned to face him. That's why this matters so much, Noah. It's not just about exposing corruption. It's about stopping a traitor who's gotten American service members killed for profit. Noah felt the weight of that truth settle over him. He'd lost friends in Afghanistan and Iraq, soldiers killed by weapons that seemed too sophisticated for the insurgents using them. He'd always assumed the technology was captured or sold by corrupt officials in allied countries. But what if it had come directly from America? What if his friends had died because someone like Garrett had sold their enemies the tools to kill them? If we do this, Noah said quietly, if we take Lily to Montreal and access that evidence, what happens to her afterward? Does she go back to normal life, or does she spend the rest of her childhood looking over her shoulder? If we succeed, if we bring Garrett down and destroy his network, she'll be safe. He'll be in prison, his co-conspirators will be exposed, and there won't be anyone left with the motivation or resources to come after her. And if we fail? Sarah didn't answer immediately. When she did, her voice was barely a whisper. Then we make sure she survives. Whatever it takes. They stood in silence for a while, listening to the forest sounds and feeling the weight of tomorrow's decisions pressing down on them. Finally, Sarah reached out tentatively and took Noah's hand. He didn't pull away. "I still love you," she said. "I know I have no right to say that after everything I've done. I know you probably hate me now. But I need you to know what we had was real. The life we built was real. And if I could go back and choose differently, find some way to have both the mission and our family, I would." Noah squeezed her hand once, then let go. "I don't hate you, Sarah. I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm confused. But I don't hate you. You're Lily's mother. That matters more than my feelings. And after this is over, if we all survive?" "I don't know," Noah admitted. "I honestly don't know if we can come back from this. But right now, the only thing that matters is protecting Lily and ending the threat to our family. Everything else, we'll figure it out later." Sarah nodded, wiping tears from her eyes. "Thank you for not giving up on her, on us." She went back inside, leaving Noah alone with his thoughts in the cold night air. Tomorrow they would collect Lily, would begin the journey to Montreal and the final confrontation with the conspiracy that had shaped 8 years of their lives. Tomorrow, they would use his daughter as a key to unlock evidence that could bring down powerful men or get them all killed trying. But tonight, standing under stars that had witnessed countless human struggles and would witness countless more, Noah Grant made himself a promise. Whatever happened, whatever choices had to be made, Lily would survive this. She would have the chance to grow up, to have a normal life free from the shadows and secrets that had defined her early years, even if ensuring that survival meant sacrificing everything else. He stayed on the porch for another hour, keeping watch over the dark forest, before finally going inside to grab a few hours of fitful sleep. Tomorrow would demand everything he had. Tomorrow would determine whether the family that had been broken by lies could be rebuilt on truth. Tomorrow, the real fight would begin. Dawn came too quickly, pulling Noah from dreams filled with explosions, and Sarah's face asking forgiveness he didn't know how to give. He found Marcus already awake in the cabin's main room, studying maps spread across the wooden table while drinking coffee so strong Noah could smell it from across the room. "Chen's moving Lily to the staging point now," Marcus said without looking up. "Should arrive at the safe house near Plattsburgh by 1400 hours. That gives us 6 hours to finalize the plan and move into position." Noah poured himself coffee and joined Marcus at the table. The maps showed 3 different routes from Plattsburgh to Montreal, each with notations about border crossing points, traffic patterns, and potential ambush locations. "What's our best option?" "None of them are good," Marcus admitted. "The main crossings have too much surveillance, cameras, databases, border patrol agents who might be on Garrett's payroll. But the smaller crossings are easier to blockade if he figures out our route. So we're damned either way." "Pretty much. Which is why I'm recommending we split up." Marcus traced his finger along the map. "Rodriguez takes Clara and Michael through the main crossing at Champlain. They're carrying false documentation I had made last night. Canadian business consultants returning from a conference. Clean, professional, nothing to raise flags. And the rest of us? You, Sarah, Lily, and I cross here." Marcus pointed to a small rural crossing 40 miles west. "Lower traffic, less sophisticated scanning equipment. We go as a family on a camping trip. Normal, boring, exactly what border agents see 100 times a day." "What about Cordova?" "She stays behind to coordinate with her FBI contacts and monitor Garrett's movements. If he's mobilizing resources to stop us, we need advance warning." Marcus looked up, his eyes serious. This is going to be tight, brother. Garrett knows we're planning something, and he's got resources we can't match. Our only advantage is that he doesn't know exactly when or where we'll move. Unless he has surveillance on this cabin. Rodriguez swept the perimeter twice. No drones, no cameras, no indication anyone knows we're here. For now, we're ghosts. Marcus folded one of the maps. But that won't last. The moment we start moving, we'll leave trails. Credit cards if we're stupid, traffic cameras even if we're careful, cell phone towers triangulating our positions. We need to move fast and stay ahead of his tracking. Sarah emerged from one of the bedrooms, her hair still damp from a shower. She'd changed into jeans and a flannel shirt, looking more like the woman Noah had married and less like the federal witness in hiding. How long until we get Lily? 6 hours, Noah said. And Sarah, we need to talk about how we're going to explain this to her. She thinks you're dead. Seeing you alive is going to be traumatic enough without also asking her to help us break into a secure facility. I know. Sarah sat down at the table, her hands wrapped around a coffee mug like she needed the warmth. I've been thinking about that all night. We need to be honest with her, but in terms an 8-year-old can process. No talk of conspiracies or weapons sales. Just that Mommy had to hide to keep her safe, and now we need her help to make sure everyone stays safe forever. She's going to have questions, Noah warned. She's going to ask why you left, why you didn't come back sooner, why you let her think you were dead. And I'll answer them as honestly as I can. Sarah's voice was steady despite the pain in her eyes. I'll spend the rest of my life answering those questions if that's what it takes. But right now the priority is keeping her alive and ending the threat. Everything else comes after. Clara joined them, looking exhausted despite having slept. Michael was right behind her, the two siblings having spent much of the night talking through 8 years of separation and secrets. What's the timeline? Clara asked. Marcus briefed them on the plan. Clara nodded slowly, processing the risks and variables. And once we're in Montreal, what's the extraction plan after we access the evidence? Rodriguez has contacts in the city, ex-military guys who run private security. They'll provide overwatch while we're at the storage facility and safe transport afterward, Marcus explained. From there, we get to a hotel, upload everything to secure servers with deadman switches, and contact every major news outlet simultaneously. We make it so public, so widespread, that killing us won't stop the information from spreading. Garrett will know we're doing this the moment we cross the border, Michael pointed out. He's got to have alerts set up for our names, our faces. Border databases will ping the moment we try to enter Canada. Which is why you and Clara are using false identities, Marcus said, and why Noah, Sarah, and Lily are crossing as a family using documentation that won't trigger any flags. We've thought this through. Have you thought through what happens when Garrett figures out we've accessed the vault? Michael pressed. He'll send everything he has to stop us from releasing the evidence. We're talking about a man with special operations teams at his disposal. Then we make sure we're in a public enough location that he can't use those teams, Marcus countered. Hotel lobby, coffee shop, somewhere with witnesses and cameras. He can't risk a ghost unit assault in the middle of a crowded hotel without massive blowback. He's risked worse, Sarah said quietly. He killed a federal agent in a hospital parking lot. Made it look like a mugging, but I knew. Garrett doesn't hesitate when he feels threatened. The room fell silent as they all processed the magnitude of what they were attempting. They were going up against a man with unlimited resources, political connections, and a willingness to kill anyone who threatened his operation. The odds weren't just bad, they were nearly impossible. But Noah looked around the table at the faces of people who'd all lost something to Garrett's conspiracy. Michael, who'd given up 8 years of his life in hiding. Sarah, who'd abandoned her daughter to protect her. Clara, who'd buried a brother who wasn't really dead. And Director Cordova, who'd spent 8 years building a case against corruption within her own agency. They'd all sacrificed too much to stop now. We do this, Noah said firmly. We cross the border, we access the evidence, and we bring this bastard down. For everyone he's killed, for everyone he's hurt, we finish this. For Lily, Sarah added softly. So she can grow up without this shadow hanging over her. They spent the morning making final preparations. Rodriguez procured a minivan with New York plates and registration that would pass casual inspection. Marcus gathered camping equipment to sell their cover story. Tents, sleeping bags, a cooler filled with food and drinks. Clara and Michael rehearsed their false identities until they could recite the backstories without hesitation. At noon, they loaded into 2 vehicles and began the drive north. Noah rode with Marcus, Sarah, and Cordova, while Clara, Michael, and Rodriguez took the second vehicle. The autumn landscape rolled past, forests painted in reds and golds, small towns that looked like postcards, a countryside that seemed impossibly peaceful compared to the violence they'd just escaped. Noah's phone buzzed with a message from Chen. Packages secure at staging location, 6 sentries maintaining perimeter. All quiet. Package. They were calling his daughter a package, reducing her to tactical terminology because it made the mission feel more manageable. Noah understood the psychology but hated it anyway. Lily wasn't a package or an asset. She was a little girl who liked drawing and ice cream and bedtime stories, who deserved better than to be the key to unlocking evidence of war crimes. "You okay?" Sarah asked from the seat beside him. She'd been watching him with concern, probably reading the tension in his shoulders. "Just thinking about what we're asking her to do." "We're asking her to be brave," Sarah said. "And she will be. She's stronger than you think, Noah. Stronger than either of us. She shouldn't have to be." "No, she shouldn't. But the world isn't fair, and sometimes children have to carry burdens that should belong to adults." Sarah looked out the window at the passing landscape. "When this is over, when she's safe, we'll spend the rest of our lives making it up to her. Both of us. Together or separate. Whatever works best for her." Noah appreciated the acknowledgement that their marriage might not survive this. Too much had been broken, too many lies told for love to simply resume where it had left off. But Sarah was right about one thing. Lily's well-being came first. Everything else was secondary. They reached Plattsburgh by early afternoon, a small city near the Canadian border that served as a waypoint for tourists and traders. Chen had secured a house on the outskirts, a nondescript ranch-style building that could have been anywhere in America. 3 of Chen's Marines were visible as they pulled up, professional, alert, positioned to cover all approaches. Chen himself met them at the door, a stocky man in his 40s with the calm demeanor of someone who'd seen combat and come out the other side. Everyone's inside and secure. No incidents, no unusual activity in the area. "Where's Lily?" Noah asked immediately. "Living room with Mrs. Chen. The kid's been asking for you every 10 minutes. Chen stepped aside to let them enter. "Fair warning, she's scared. Doesn't understand why she had to leave so suddenly, why strange men are guarding the house. Mrs. Chen's been keeping her calm, but she needs her father." Noah moved through the house quickly, following the sound of Mrs. Chen's voice reading from a children's book. He entered the living room and found Lily curled up on a couch, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight, her dark eyes wide with worry. The moment she saw him, her face transformed. "Daddy!" She launched herself off the couch and into his arms, and Noah caught her, holding tight while she buried her face against his shoulder. "I was so scared. The men came and said we had to leave, and Mrs. Chen said you were okay, but I didn't know. I didn't know." "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm okay." Noah stroked her hair, feeling her small body trembling. "I know this has been scary, but you're safe. I promise you're safe." "Why did we have to leave? Why are there soldiers everywhere?" Lily pulled back to look at his face, her eyes searching for truth. "Is it because of the bad men? The ones from my dreams?" Before Noah could answer, Sarah appeared in the doorway. She'd hung back, giving Noah time with Lily first. But now she stood there with tears streaming down her face, looking at the daughter she'd been separated from for 2 years. Lily's gaze shifted to Sarah, and her entire body went rigid. "Daddy, who is that lady?" Noah's heart broke at the question. His daughter was looking at her own mother and didn't recognize her. 2 years was an eternity in a child's life, long enough for memories to fade and faces to become unfamiliar. "Lily, sweetheart, that's—" Noah's voice caught. How did you tell a child that death wasn't always permanent? That the mother she'd mourned was standing right there? "It's Mommy," Sarah said softly, kneeling down to Lily's eye level. "Baby girl, it's me. I know you thought I was gone, and I'm so sorry for that. But I'm here now, and I love you so much." Lily stared at Sarah, her small face working through confusion and disbelief. "But you're dead. Daddy said you died. We went to the funeral and everything." I know, and I'm sorry we had to lie to you, but I had to pretend to be gone to keep you safe from some very bad people. Sarah was crying openly now. I never wanted to leave you, Lily. Every single day I was away, I thought about you. I missed you so much it hurt. Then why didn't you come back? Lily's voice was small and accusing. If you missed me, why didn't you come home? Because the bad people were looking for me. And if I came home, they would have hurt you and Daddy. I couldn't let that happen. So I had to stay away, even though it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Lily looked between Sarah and Noah, trying to process the impossible. Is she really my mommy? She asked Noah. For real? Yes, sweetheart, she really is. For a long moment, Lily didn't move. Then slowly, hesitantly, she reached out and touched Sarah's face like she needed physical proof this wasn't a dream. Sarah caught Lily's hand and pressed it to her cheek, fresh tears falling. You're real, Lily whispered. I'm real, baby. I'm so real, and I'm never leaving you again. And then Lily was crying too, launching herself from Noah's arms into Sarah's, and Sarah was holding her daughter and sobbing into her hair while Lily clung tight enough to leave marks. Noah watched them, his own vision blurred, feeling something in his chest that was part relief and part grief for the 2 years they'd all lost. Mrs. Chen appeared beside him, her elderly face wet with tears. This is good, she said quietly in her accented English. Family together again. This is how it should be. But even as Noah watched his family reunite, he couldn't forget why they were here. In a few hours, they would ask this little girl to help them access evidence that powerful men would kill to keep hidden. They would take her across an international border into danger she couldn't fully understand. And if anything went wrong, if Garrett's people caught up to them, Lily would be in the crossfire. Clara entered the room and stopped short when she saw Sarah and Lily together. Her hand went to her mouth, emotions playing across her face too quickly to identify. Then Lily looked up, saw Clara, and her eyes went wide. It's the lady, Lily said, her voice filled with wonder. From my dreams. Daddy, it's the lady I've been drawing. Clara moved closer, kneeling down beside Sarah. Hi, Lily. My name is Clara. I'm your aunt, your Daddy Michael's sister. You've been in my dreams, Lily said with the certainty of a child who hadn't yet learned to doubt her perceptions. You were sad, and there were bad men chasing you. But Daddy was there too, and he kept you safe. Clara's breath caught. You dreamed about me? Before we met? Lily nodded seriously. I dream about lots of things before they happen. Mommy taught me that when I was little. She said I was special, that I could see things other people couldn't. Sarah and Noah exchanged a look. Sarah had never mentioned anything about Lily being special or having any kind of precognitive abilities. But then again, Sarah had kept a lot of secrets. What else did you dream? Sarah asked gently. I dreamed we were all going on a trip together, Lily said. All of us. Daddy, you, Clara, and me. We were going to a big building with lots of locks, and I had to open something important, something that would make the bad men go away forever. The adults in the room went very still. Marcus, who'd been standing in the hallway listening, stepped forward. Kids got second sight. I've seen it before in some of the indigenous troops I worked with overseas. Some people are just wired to pick up on things the rest of us miss. Or she's been absorbing more than we realized, Noah said carefully. Kids are perceptive. Maybe she picked up on tension, overheard conversations, pieced together fragments. Maybe, Marcus said, but his tone suggested he didn't believe that explanation. Either way, she seems to know what's coming. That might make the next part easier. Or harder, Sarah said quietly. She turned back to Lily. Baby, we do need to take a trip together, and we do need you to help us with something important, something that will make it safe for all of us to be together without hiding anymore. But it might be a little scary. Are you brave enough to help us? Lily looked at her mother with complete trust. I'm brave. I can help. That's my girl. Sarah hugged her tight. We're going to drive to a city in Canada called Montreal. It's going to be an adventure, just like when we used to take road trips before. And when we get there, you're going to help us open a special lock that only you can open. Because I'm the key, Lily said matter-of-factly. That's what the dream said. I'm the key that opens the truth. The adults exchanged uneasy glances. However, Lily knew what she knew. Whether through dreams or overheard conversations or simple childhood intuition, she understood more than they'd given her credit for. They spent the next hour preparing for the border crossing. Marcus briefed them on the cover story: Noah and Sarah Grant taking their daughter Lily on a camping trip to Quebec. They had documentation to support the story: camping gear visible in the van, a relaxed family on vacation vibe they needed to project. Clara, Michael, and Rodriguez would leave first, crossing at the main checkpoint with their false business consultant identities. If they made it through clean, it would suggest Garrett didn't have complete coverage of the border. If they got stopped, Marcus would abort the second crossing and find an alternate route. At 4:30, Clara hugged Lily goodbye. "I'll see you in Montreal, sweetheart. Be brave for your parents, okay?" "I will," Lily promised. "And Clara? In my dream, everything turns out okay. We all make it." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I hope your dreams are right, Lily." Rodriguez, Clara, and Michael left in a sedan with Canadian plates. Marcus monitored police frequencies and border communications, listening for any indication of trouble. 20 minutes later, his phone buzzed with a text from Rodriguez. "Clean crossing, no issues. See you on the other side." "Okay," Marcus said, letting out a breath. "We're up. Remember the story, stay relaxed, answer questions simply. We're just a boring family on a boring trip. Nothing to raise flags." They loaded into the minivan, Noah driving with Sarah in the passenger seat, and Lily strapped into the back with her stuffed rabbit and a coloring book. Marcus rode behind them in a second vehicle, maintaining distance but close enough to intervene if needed. The drive to the border crossing took 40 minutes through increasingly rural landscape. The crossing itself was small: 2 lanes, a single guard booth, surrounded by forests that extended into both countries, exactly the kind of low-key crossing point they needed. Noah pulled up to the booth and rolled down his window. The border agent was a woman in her 50s with the tired professionalism of someone working the evening shift. "Passports, please." Noah handed over their documents, his real passport and the ones Marcus had created for Sarah and Lily. The agent scanned them, glancing at the computer screen in her booth. Noah's pulse hammered, but he kept his expression neutral, bored even, like this was the 1,000th border crossing he'd done, and none of them were particularly interesting. "Purpose of your visit to Canada?" the agent asked. "Family camping trip. Planning to visit Parc National de la Yamaska, maybe do some hiking." Noah gestured to the camping gear visible through the van's windows. The agent looked into the back seat where Lily was coloring, completely absorbed in her activity. "And this is your daughter?" "Yes, ma'am." "Lily, can you say hello to the nice lady?" Lily looked up and waved shyly. "Hi, we're going camping. I've never been to Canada before." The agent smiled despite herself. "Well, welcome to Canada then. How long do you plan to stay?" "Just the weekend," Sarah said from the passenger seat. "My husband has to be back for work on Monday." The agent studied the computer screen for another moment, and Noah felt sweat forming at the back of his neck despite the cool evening air. If Garrett had managed to flag their information, if there was an alert in the system, this was when they'd find out. "Everything looks fine," the agent finally said, handing back their passports. "Enjoy your trip. Drive safely." "Thank you," Noah said, forcing himself to pull away slowly, calmly, like someone with nothing to hide and nowhere urgent to be. Only when they were 2 miles past the border did he allow himself to breathe properly. Sarah reached over and squeezed his hand. "We made it." "First hurdle," Noah said. "Now we just have to make it to Montreal, access the facility, and get out before Garrett figures out what we're doing." "Easy," Sarah said with dark humor. "What could possibly go wrong?" Behind them, Marcus crossed the border without incident and sent a text confirming he was through. They rendezvoused with Rodriguez, Clara, and Michael at a gas station 15 miles into Canada, regrouping to coordinate the final approach to Montreal. "Any signs of surveillance?" Marcus asked Rodriguez. "Nothing obvious, but if Garrett's smart, and we know he is, he won't tip his hand until we're actually at the storage facility. That's when he'll spring whatever trap he's set." "Then we go in prepared for a fight," Marcus said. "Rodriguez, you and I will establish external security. Noah and Sarah take Lily inside. Clara and Michael stay with the vehicles, engines running, ready for immediate extraction if things go bad. What about weapons? Noah asked. We can't bring firearms into a secure facility. You won't need to. The facility has its own security. Armed guards, metal detectors, cameras. It's designed to protect its clients, not harm them. Once you're inside, you're probably safer than you'll be anywhere else. It's getting out that I'm worried about, Clara said quietly. If Garrett knows we've accessed the vault, he'll be waiting when we emerge. Which is why we don't emerge the way we went in, Marcus said. He pulled up building schematics on his tablet. The facility has a loading dock in the rear used for clients who need to transport large items. It exits onto a different street, less visible, easier to secure. We bring vehicles to both locations. Rodriguez covers the main entrance in case we have to use it. I cover the loading dock for our actual exit. Splitting our forces, Noah said. That's risky. Everything about this is risky, Marcus countered, but it gives us options, and options keep people alive. They finalized the plan and continued toward Montreal, arriving in the city as evening descended and streetlights flickered to life. Montreal was beautiful in the way old cities often are. European architecture mixing with North American energy, French and English blending on street signs and in overheard conversations. Under different circumstances, Noah would have enjoyed showing Lily the city, taking her to parks and cafes, creating happy memories. Instead, they were racing toward a confrontation that could end with all of them dead. The storage facility was located in an industrial area near the port, a nondescript building that could have housed anything from a warehouse to a data center. High walls, security gates, the kind of place designed to keep secrets safe from the world. Rodriguez and Marcus conducted a perimeter sweep while the rest of them waited in the vehicles. Lily had fallen asleep in the back seat, exhausted by the day's emotional upheavals, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight. Noah watched her sleep and felt a wave of protectiveness so intense it was almost painful. Whatever happens in there, he said quietly to Sarah, she comes out safe. That's the priority. Agreed, Sarah said. If it comes down to a choice between the evidence and Lily's safety, we choose Lily, always. Marcus returned from his sweep. Building looks clean. No obvious surveillance, no vehicles that don't belong. Either Garrett doesn't know we're here yet, or he's waiting for us to go inside before making his move. Only one way to find out, Noah said. He gently woke Lily, who rubbed her eyes and looked around in confusion. Hey, sweetheart, we're here. Remember what we talked about? You're going to help us open something important. I remember, Lily said sleepily. I'm the key. They approached the facility's main entrance, Sarah carrying Lily, Noah walking beside them, trying to project normalcy despite the tactical vest under his jacket and the awareness that they were being watched by multiple security cameras. The entrance led to a lobby that looked more like a bank than a storage facility. Marble floors, soft lighting, a reception desk staffed by a security guard in a professional uniform. The guard looked up as they entered, his expression polite but alert. Good evening, the guard said in French-accented English. Do you have an appointment? Yes, Sarah said. We're here to access Vault 773. The account is under the name Morrison Sterling. The guard checked his computer, then nodded. I'll need to see identification and verify your biometric authorization. Please follow me. They were led through a security checkpoint with metal detectors and body scanners. Noah had to remove his jacket, revealing the tactical vest, which earned a raised eyebrow from the guard. We've had threats, Noah explained, just being cautious. Understandable, the guard said, though his hand drifted closer to his own weapon. Many of our clients have security concerns. That's why they store sensitive materials with us. Beyond the security checkpoint was a long corridor lined with vault doors, each marked with a number. They stopped at Vault 773, and the guard produced a tablet. The account requires genetic verification from someone carrying specific DNA markers. We'll need a blood sample from the child. No, Noah said immediately. We're not drawing blood from an 8-year-old for your security theater. It's just a finger prick, sir, the guard said patiently. Less invasive than a vaccination. The device analyzes the sample and either grants or denies access. Standard procedure. Sarah knelt down to Lily's level. Baby, they need to prick your finger just a tiny bit. It'll hurt for a second, like when you get a splinter. Can you be brave for me? Lily looked at the device, then at the vault door, then back at her mother. Will this make the bad men go away? Yes, Sarah said firmly. This will end everything. After this, we can all be together without hiding or being scared. Okay, Lily said. I'll be brave. The guard produced a small device that looked like a glucose monitor. He cleaned Lily's finger with an alcohol wipe, then pressed the device against her fingertip. Lily flinched but didn't cry out as it collected the blood sample. The device beeped and displayed results on its screen. The guard studied them, then nodded. DNA markers confirmed. Access granted. He swiped a keycard and the vault door clicked open with a pneumatic hiss. Inside the vault was a space about the size of a walk-in closet, lined with shelves containing document boxes, hard drives, and file folders. But the centerpiece was a large safe in the rear wall, digital display showing it was locked. The main storage safe requires a code, the guard explained. The account holder would have set this when establishing the vault. Do you know the code? Sarah moved to the safe and entered a series of numbers. The safe beeped and the display changed from red to green. She pulled the door open, revealing stacks of documents, dozens of flash drives, and what looked like external hard drives. This is it, Michael said from the doorway where he'd been watching. This is everything. 8 years of evidence. Noah started pulling out items, looking for something portable they could carry. There was too much to take everything. They'd need to prioritize what was most important for prosecution. What exactly am I looking at? Noah asked, holding up one of the document boxes. That one contains shipping manifests and payment records, Michael said. Shows every diverted weapons system, where it went, who authorized the transfer. The hard drives have communications, emails, recorded phone calls, text messages between Garrett and his network. And these, he held up a flash drive with a red label. These contain video evidence. Garrett and other DoD officials meeting with arms dealers, accepting payment, discussing how to cover their tracks. Video evidence? Noah repeated. Actual footage of them committing crimes? Recordings from phones, security cameras, even some meetings I attended wearing a wire, Michael confirmed. Garrett's lawyers won't be able to explain this away. This is ironclad. Sarah was photographing documents with her phone, creating digital backups. We should upload some of this immediately, get it into the cloud, send it to journalists, make sure killing us won't bury the evidence. Not yet, Noah said. The moment we start uploading, we tip our hand. Garrett will know we have everything, and he'll come at us with everything he has. We need to be in a secure location first. Noah's right, Marcus said through the comm in Noah's ear. Get what you need, and get out. Rodriguez just spotted 3 vehicles approaching from the north. Could be nothing, could be trouble. But how long do we have? Noah asked, touching his ear to activate his microphone. 5 minutes, maybe less. Move now. They grabbed the most critical items, the red-labeled flash drives with video evidence, the boxes of financial records, several hard drives containing communications. It was too much to carry comfortably, but they'd make it work. As they hurried back through the corridor toward the lobby, alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the facility. The guard's radio crackled with urgent French that Noah couldn't quite follow, but the tone was clear enough. They were in trouble. What's happening? Sarah demanded. The guard was already pulling his weapon. Security breach at the main gate. Multiple armed individuals attempting forced entry. You need to go now. Loading dock through that door. He pointed down a side corridor. They ran, Noah carrying Lily while Sarah and Michael carried the evidence. Behind them, Noah heard the distinctive sound of automatic weapons fire. Loud, close, getting closer. Marcus, we're coming out the loading dock, Noah shouted into his comm. Hot pursuit, need immediate extraction. Copy? I'm in position, Marcus responded. Vehicle at the dock in 30 seconds. They burst through the loading dock door and found themselves on a concrete platform facing an empty street. Marcus's van came around the corner, tires screaming. But before they could reach it, 2 black SUVs blocked both ends of the street. Ghost Unit had found them. Operators poured from the vehicles, weapons raised, professional and efficient. Noah counted at least 8, probably more in the vehicles. They were outnumbered, outgunned, trapped in a kill box with Lily in his arms and no cover. Put the child down and surrender the materials, one of the operators called out, his voice amplified through a megaphone. You have 10 seconds to comply before we open fire. Noah's mind raced through options and found nothing good. They couldn't fight their way out. They couldn't outrun automatic weapons. They couldn't... A vehicle came out of nowhere, sideswiping one of the SUVs with enough force to send it spinning. Rodriguez's sedan, heavily damaged but still functional. The impact created a gap in the perimeter. "Go!" Rodriguez shouted from the driver's seat. "Get to Marcus, I'll hold them here." Noah didn't waste time arguing. He ran for Marcus's van with Sarah and Michael beside him, bullets tracking their movement, pavement exploding into fragments around their feet. He felt something tug at his jacket, a round passing too close, and pushed Lily's head down against his shoulder, making himself as much of a shield for her as possible. They reached the van and piled inside. Marcus was already moving before the doors closed, driving in reverse at high speed. Behind them, Rodriguez was out of his vehicle with a rifle, laying down covering fire, forcing the Ghost unit operators to take cover instead of pursuing. "Rodriguez, fall back," Marcus shouted into his radio. "Negative, you need distance, I'll catch up." But Rodriguez's voice carried the knowledge that he wouldn't catch up, that this was a sacrifice play. "Rodriguez, don't you dare!" Marcus's voice broke. "That's an order!" "Sorry, boss. Tell my kids I love them." And then the radio went silent, except for the sound of gunfire. Marcus drove with tears streaming down his face, one hand on the wheel and one pressing his earpiece like he could will Rodriguez back to life through sheer force of emotion. Noah looked back through the rear window and saw Rodriguez's position being overrun, saw Ghost unit operators closing in. "We can't leave him," Clara said desperately. "We don't have a choice," Noah said, though the words tasted like ash. "If we go back, they take us all. Rodriguez just gave us a chance. We don't waste it." They drove through Montreal like the devil himself was chasing them, which wasn't far from the truth. Lily was crying, terrified by the violence and chaos. Sarah held her tight, whispering reassurances neither of them believed. "Where do we go?" Michael asked. "They know we're in Montreal. They'll have people at every hotel, every border crossing." "Safe house," Marcus said, his voice dead. "I have one more location they don't know about. Old Army buddy owes me a favor. We go there, we upload the evidence, and we end this tonight." "What about Rodriguez?" Clara demanded. Marcus's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "Rodriguez is gone. He died buying us time. We honor that by finishing the mission." They drove to a residential neighborhood in the city's eastern suburbs, pulling into the garage of a modest house where a middle-aged man was waiting. He took one look at Marcus's face and asked no questions, just got them inside and locked everything down. The house had a basement that had been converted into what looked like a command center, computers, monitors, enough electronics to run a small military operation. Marcus's friend was apparently more than just an old army buddy. "Upload stations are ready," the man said. "You put the evidence on those computers, it goes out through 50 different servers in 30 countries. Can't be traced, can't be stopped, can't be taken back." Sarah began loading flash drives while Michael organized documents. Noah stood guard at a basement window, watching the street for any sign they'd been followed. And Lily sat in a corner with her stuffed rabbit, watching the adults work with eyes that had seen too much for someone her age. "I'm sorry, baby," Noah said quietly, kneeling beside her. "You shouldn't have had to see any of this." "It's okay, Daddy," Lily said with heartbreaking maturity. "Sometimes grown-ups have to do scary things to protect people. That's what you and Mommy are doing, right? Protecting people?" "That's right, sweetheart. We're making sure bad people can't hurt anyone anymore." "Then it's worth it," Lily said simply. "That's what heroes do." Noah pulled her into a hug, this daughter who'd been through so much, who somehow remained pure and hopeful despite the darkness surrounding her. She was braver than he'd ever been, stronger than he'd ever given her credit for. "Video files are uploading," Sarah announced. "Looks like about 40 minutes for everything to complete." "Financial records are going out simultaneously," Michael added. "By tomorrow morning, this will be front-page news everywhere." "And Garrett will know we succeeded," Clara said. "He'll know his operation is finished." "Which means he'll have nothing to lose," Noah realized. A man with nothing to lose is the most dangerous kind. As if summoning him through the power of discussion, Noah's phone buzzed with an incoming call from a blocked number. He almost didn't answer, but some instinct made him accept. "Mr. Grant?" The voice was cultured, authoritative, with the flat accent of someone from old East Coast money. "My name is Richard Garrett. I believe you have something that belongs to me." I have evidence of your war crimes, Noah said coldly, and in about 35 minutes, so will every news outlet in the world. I know, which is why I'm calling to make you a proposition. Garrett's voice remained calm despite the impending destruction of everything he'd built. You want your family to survive this. I want the same thing for mine, so let's make a deal. There's no deal. You're finished. Perhaps. But I still have resources, Mr. Grant. Resources that could make your daughter's life very difficult. Imagine growing up with a target on her back, never knowing when one of my associates might decide to seek revenge. Imagine your wife looking over her shoulder for the rest of her life, wondering if today is the day someone finishes what I started. You threatening my family? Noah's voice went deadly quiet. I'm offering you protection, Garrett corrected. Full immunity for everyone involved. I'll surrender myself to federal custody, plead guilty, serve whatever sentence I'm given. In exchange, you keep your daughter's identity out of the public record. She becomes a footnote in the case, a confidential witness whose name is sealed. She gets to grow up normal, safe, free from the consequences of her parents' choices. Noah looked at Lily, then at Sarah, then at the computers uploading evidence that would destroy Garrett, but also make Lily a permanent part of the public record. Every news story would mention the daughter who provided DNA access. Every documentary would feature her role in the conspiracy's exposure. He's lying, Marcus said. The moment you agree, he'll have lawyers twist the deal, find loopholes, escape justice. Maybe, Noah said. But maybe he's also right that Lily deserves a normal life, that she deserves to not be defined by this for the rest of her childhood. Don't do it, Clara urged. We've come too far. Rodriguez died for this evidence. But Noah was looking at his daughter's face, at the trust in her eyes, at the innocence that still remained despite everything. And he was thinking about what Sarah had said, that sometimes parents made impossible choices because they were the only choices that kept their children safe. I need to think about it, Noah said into the phone. You have 5 minutes, Garrett replied. Then my offer expires and your daughter lives with the consequences. The line went dead, leaving Noah holding a silent phone and staring at a choice no parent should have to make. Justice or safety. Truth or protection. The good of the many or the well-being of the one person who mattered most. In the corner, Lily was humming to herself, coloring in a book someone had given her, completely unaware that her father was deciding her entire future in the space of 5 minutes. And outside, somewhere in the darkness of Montreal, Admiral Richard Garrett waited for an answer that would determine whether he spent the rest of his life in prison or walked away to rebuild his criminal empire from the shadows. The clock on the computer screen showed 32 minutes remaining on the upload. 5 minutes to decide. And somewhere, Rodriguez's sacrifice was either about to be honored or rendered meaningless by a father's desperate need to protect his child from a world that had already hurt her too much. Noah stood frozen, the weight of Garrett's ultimatum pressing down on him like physical force. Around him, everyone waited for his decision. Sarah with her hands pressed to her mouth, Clara gripping Michael's arm, Marcus standing rigid with Rodriguez's death still fresh in his eyes. And in the corner, Lily hummed softly to herself, coloring a picture of a house with a family standing in front of it, oblivious to the fact that her father held her entire future in his trembling hands. Noah. Sarah's voice was gentle but urgent. Whatever you decide, I'm with you, but you need to decide now. He looked at the computer screen. 29 minutes remaining on the upload. In less than half an hour, the evidence would be irreversibly distributed across the world. Garrett's empire would crumble. Justice would be served for Rodriguez, for all the soldiers killed by weapons Garrett had sold to their enemies, for Michael and Sarah's stolen years in hiding. But Lily would be exposed. Her name, her face, her role as the genetic key that unlocked the evidence. She'd be interviewed, analyzed, documented in every news story about the conspiracy. She'd grow up as the girl who brought down a corrupt admiral, forever defined by something she'd done at 8 years old without fully understanding it. What kind of father chooses revenge over his daughter's safety? Noah said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. The kind who teaches her that truth matters, Marcus said, that justice isn't negotiable, that some things are worth fighting for even when the cost is high. Easy for you to say, Noah snapped. She's not your daughter. Marcus flinched but didn't back down. No, she's not. But Rodriguez didn't die so we could make deals with the man who ordered his execution. He died believing we'd finish this. You really want to tell his kids their father's sacrifice meant nothing? Don't put that on me, Noah said, his voice rising. Don't you dare make this about Rodriguez when it's about my daughter's life. It's about both, Marcus shouted back. It's about doing the right thing even when the right thing hurts. Stop. Lily's small voice cut through the argument like a knife. She'd stopped coloring and was looking at them with those dark, knowing eyes that seemed to see far more than a child should. Daddy, why are you fighting? Noah knelt beside her, trying to compose his face into something that wouldn't frighten her. Sweetheart, the grown-ups are just trying to figure out what to do next. About the bad man on the phone? Lily asked. I heard him. He wants to make a deal. You heard that? Noah's heart sank. How much had she understood? I hear lots of things grown-ups think I don't hear, Lily said with the matter-of-fact tone children use when stating obvious truths. The bad man wants you to hide me so I don't get hurt. And you're trying to decide if keeping me safe is more important than stopping him. The simple clarity of her statement silenced the room. Out of the mouths of babes, Noah thought, she'd reduced their complex moral calculus to its essential truth. That's exactly right, Noah admitted. And I don't know what to do, Lily. I want to keep you safe more than anything in the world. But I also know that letting him escape means other people might get hurt. Lily set down her crayon and picked up her stuffed rabbit, hugging it tight the way she did when processing difficult thoughts. In my dreams, she said slowly, I saw what happens if you make the deal. The bad man doesn't go to jail. He hurts more people. And one day, when I'm bigger, he comes back for us anyway because he's scared I might tell people the truth. Noah felt his blood run cold. Lily, sweetie, dreams aren't... But I also saw what happens if you don't make the deal, Lily continued, her voice steady despite the tears forming in her eyes. People know my name. They ask me questions. Sometimes kids at school are mean because their parents say bad things about us. But Daddy, in that dream, we're all together, you and Mommy and Clara and me. We're a family, and we're safe because the bad man is in jail where he can't hurt anyone. She looked up at him with absolute trust. I want to be in the dream where we're together, even if it's hard sometimes, because family is worth being brave for. Noah couldn't speak past the lump in his throat. His 8-year-old daughter, who'd been through more trauma than most adults experienced in a lifetime, was telling him to choose the harder path because it was the right one. She was teaching him about courage when it should have been the other way around. Sarah moved to kneel beside them, tears streaming freely down her face. Lily, baby, you're the bravest person I've ever known. Do you understand that? I'm not brave, Lily said. I'm scared all the time. But Daddy taught me that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared. Noah pulled both of them into a hug, his wife and daughter, the family he'd thought he'd lost and somehow miraculously regained. I'm so proud of you, he whispered into Lily's hair, so incredibly proud. When he looked up, Marcus was wiping his own eyes. Clara had turned away, her shoulders shaking. Even Michael, who'd spent 8 years living in the shadows, looked shaken by the simple wisdom of a child who'd decided that truth mattered more than comfort. Noah's phone rang again, Garrett calling for his answer. Noah accepted the call and put it on speaker so everyone could hear. Admiral Garrett. Mr. Grant, have you made your decision? I have. Noah's voice was steady now, certain. The answer is no. No deals, no immunity, no protecting you from the consequences of your crimes. In about 25 minutes, the world is going to know exactly what you've done, and my daughter will deal with whatever comes from that because she's braver than both of us combined. There was a long pause on the other end. When Garrett spoke again, his cultured calm had cracked, revealing rage underneath. You're making a mistake. You have no idea what you've just unleashed. I'm making the right choice, Noah corrected. Finally, after too long being afraid. You lose, Garrett. You lose, and everyone you hurt gets justice, including my wife, who spent 8 years in hiding because of you, including Rodriguez, who died an hour ago buying us time to expose you. This is for all of them. Rodriguez is dead? Garrett's voice carried something that might have been genuine surprise. The Mexican operator with Ghost Unit training? That's unfortunate. He was good. He was better than good, Marcus said, his voice hard. He was a patriot who died stopping a traitor. And when you're rotting in prison, you can think about that every day for the rest of your miserable life. Garrett laughed, a sound without humor. Prison. You really think this ends with me in prison? Mr. Grant, I have friends in places you can't imagine. I have leverage on senators, judges, agency directors. This evidence will create a scandal, yes. There will be investigations and hearings, but I'll negotiate a deal, serve minimal time in a comfortable facility, and be back in operation within 5 years. Maybe, Noah admitted, or maybe the video evidence of you accepting bribes and ordering assassinations will be so damning that even your powerful friends can't save you. Either way, you're finished doing this particular evil. That's good enough for me. Then I suppose we have nothing more to discuss, Garrett said coldly. Enjoy your brief moment of victory, Mr. Grant. I promise you, it won't last long. The line went dead. For a moment, no one moved. Then Clara exhaled shakily and said, Did we really just tell a corrupt admiral with unlimited resources to go to hell? Yes, Noah said simply. And it felt amazing. Sarah laughed, the sound breaking through tension like sunlight through storm clouds. We did it. Oh my God, we actually did it. But Marcus was at the window, his expression grim. We're not done yet. Garrett knows where we are generally, knows we're in Montreal. He'll send everything he has to stop that upload before it completes. As if summoning trouble through prophecy, their host came running down the basement stairs, his face pale. We've got vehicles surrounding the block. At least 6, maybe more. Professional operators moving into position. Ghost unit, Marcus said. They're going to hit us hard and fast, try to destroy the computers before the upload finishes. How much time do we have left? 22 minutes, Michael reported, watching the progress bar creep forward with agonizing slowness. Can we speed it up? Clara asked. Not without corrupting the files. We just have to hold them off. Michael looked around at their small group. How many weapons do we have? Marcus did a quick inventory. I've got a sidearm and 2 magazines. Noah has his pistol. That's it. Against a dozen ghost unit operators with automatic weapons and body armor. Then we can't fight them, Sarah said. We have to run, take the evidence to another location, finish the upload somewhere else. There's no time, their host said. They're already in position. The moment anyone steps outside, they'll be cut down. Noah looked at Lily, who was watching the adults with growing fear. Her earlier courage giving way to the natural terror of a child who understood danger was close. He couldn't put her in a firefight. He couldn't ask her to be brave one more time when she'd already been so much braver than anyone should have to be. I'll surrender, Noah said suddenly. I'll go out there. Tell them I'll give them the evidence in exchange for everyone else's safety. It'll buy us time. They'll kill you the moment you step outside, Marcus said flatly. Garrett's past the point of negotiation. This is elimination now. Then what do you suggest? Noah demanded. Because I'm not sitting here waiting for them to breach this house and shoot it out in front of my daughter. Neither am I, Marcus said, but going out there is suicide. Before anyone could respond, Clara's phone rang. She looked at the screen and her eyes went wide. It's Director Cordova, she answered on speaker. Cordova's voice came through, strained and urgent. Clara, where are you? Safe house in eastern Montreal, but we're surrounded by Ghost Unit. Garrett's making his final play. I know. I've been monitoring police frequencies, but Clara, you need to hold on for exactly 18 more minutes. Can you do that? What happens in 18 minutes? Clara asked. I've been coordinating with the FBI director, the Attorney General, and Canadian Federal Police. The moment I confirmed you'd access the full evidence, I triggered a multi-agency response. There are federal agents, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and Canadian military assets converging on your location right now. They'll be there in 18 minutes. 18 minutes, Marcus repeated. We can work with 18 minutes. Thank you, Director. Don't thank me yet. Just stay alive. And Noah? Cordova's voice softened. Rodriguez's family will be taken care of. I promise you that. The call ended. Marcus was already moving, checking sight lines from windows, identifying fields of fire. Okay, new plan. We fortify this position and hold for 18 minutes. Noah, you and Sarah take Lily to the most secure room in the house, probably a bathroom on an interior wall. Stay there. Stay quiet. The rest of us will create enough noise to convince Ghost Unit we're all defending this position. I'm not hiding while you fight, Noah protested. Yes, you are, Marcus said firmly, because if something happens to me and the others, you're Lily's last line of defense. You stay with your family, and you only engage if they breach to your position. Understood? Noah wanted to argue, wanted to stand with his friend and face the danger together. But he looked at Lily's terrified face and knew Marcus was right. His place was with his daughter, not playing soldier when real soldiers were handling the defense. Understood, Noah said. He picked up Lily and nodded to Sarah. Let's go. They found a bathroom on the second floor, small and windowless, about as defensible as any location in a civilian house could be. Noah positioned them in the bathtub. Sarah and Lily curled together while he crouched by the door with his pistol, ready to defend them if it came to that. I'm scared, Daddy, Lily whispered. Me too, sweetheart, Noah admitted. But we're going to be okay. The good guys are coming, and we just have to wait for them. What if the bad guys get here first? Then your daddy will protect you, just like always. Downstairs, Noah heard Marcus shouting instructions to Clara and Michael, positioning them at different windows, preparing fields of fire. Then everything went quiet. That eerie silence before combat that Noah remembered from Afghanistan. The calm before the storm. The first shot shattered the silence like breaking glass. Then came the answering fire from inside the house. And suddenly the world was explosions of sound and fury. Noah pressed his hands over Lily's ears, trying to muffle the terrifying sounds of warfare happening one floor below. Sarah, no matter what happens, you keep Lily safe, Noah said urgently. If they breach this bathroom, you take her out that window, down the roof, run, and don't look back. Noah, don't. Promise me. His voice was harder than he intended. Promise me you'll save our daughter even if it means leaving me behind. Sarah's face crumpled, but she nodded. I promise. But you better not die on us again. Lily couldn't handle losing you after just getting me back. Not planning on it, Noah said, trying to smile. I've got too much to live for. The gunfire intensified. Noah heard Marcus shouting commands, heard the distinctive crack of his pistol firing in controlled bursts. Then came a sound that made his blood freeze, the heavy thump of a breaching charge, followed by Ghost Unit operators storming into the house. Contact inside, Marcus yelled. Second floor, they're in the house. Noah gripped his pistol tighter. If they reached this bathroom, if they got past Marcus and the others, he'd have one chance to stop them before they could hurt his family. He'd make that chance count. Boots pounded on the stairs. Someone was coming up, moving fast. Noah positioned himself beside the door, ready to ambush whoever came through. The footsteps grew closer, stopping right outside the bathroom. The door exploded inward, and Noah fired without thinking, 2 rounds center mass. The Ghost Unit operator went down, but there was another behind him. Noah fired again, heard Sarah screaming, felt something burn across his left arm as a bullet grazed him. But he kept firing, kept pressing forward, refusing to let them reach Lily. The second operator fell, and Noah kicked their weapons away, then slammed the door and dragged a cabinet in front of it as a barricade. Daddy, you're bleeding! Lily's voice was high with panic. Noah looked at his arm. The wound was superficial, more burn than penetration. I'm okay, baby. Just a scratch. But downstairs, the sound of gunfire had intensified to a level that suggested Marcus and the others were being overrun. Ghost Unit had numbers and firepower, and 18 minutes was starting to feel like an eternity. Then, cutting through the chaos, came a new sound, sirens. Multiple sirens, growing louder, converging on their location from all directions. Through the bathroom's small ventilation window, Noah could see flashing lights painting the night in red and blue. Federal agents, a voice boomed through a megaphone. Drop your weapons and surrender immediately. The gunfire from outside the house faltered, then stopped. Noah heard confused shouts from the Ghost Unit operators, heard them trying to coordinate a response to this new threat. But they were caught between the house defenders and federal agents, boxed in with nowhere to go. This is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, another voice called out. You are surrounded. Surrender now, or we will use lethal force. For a moment, everything hung in balance. Then Noah heard weapons clattering to the ground, heard operators calling out surrender, heard Marcus whooping with relief from somewhere downstairs. We made it, Sarah whispered, pulling Lily close. Oh my God. We actually made it. Noah slumped against the bathroom wall, his arm throbbing, but the rest of him flooding with relief so intense it was almost painful. They'd survived. Against impossible odds, against professional killers and corrupt officials, and a conspiracy that had claimed too many lives already, they'd survived. He pulled out his phone and checked the computer upload status. 3 minutes remaining. By the time federal agents finished securing the scene and entered the house, the evidence would be irreversibly distributed. Garrett's operation would be finished, his network exposed, his years of treason laid bare for the world to see. They'd won. Marcus appeared in the bathroom doorway, his face smudged with gunpowder residue, but grinning like a madman. "Everyone okay?" "We're alive," Noah said. "Clara? Michael?" "Shaken but intact. Michael took some shrapnel from a ricochet, nothing serious. Claire's already talking to federal agents, explaining the situation." Marcus noticed Noah's bleeding arm. "You're hit." "Barely. I've had worse." "That's what Rodriguez said," Marcus replied, his grin fading. "Right before he died, buying us time." They were silent for a moment, honoring the friend who'd sacrificed everything so they could complete the mission. Then Lily wiggled free from Sarah's arms and ran to Marcus, hugging his legs. "Thank you for keeping us safe," she said. "You're a hero, just like my daddy." Marcus picked her up, his eyes wet. "No, kid. You're the hero. You're the bravest person in this whole mess." Federal agents flooded the house over the next hour, securing the scene, treating wounds, taking statements. Director Cordova arrived by helicopter, coordinating with Canadian authorities and ensuring the evidence remained protected. And at exactly 11:47 p.m., the computer upload completed, sending 8 years of documented war crimes into the digital ether where no amount of power or influence could suppress it. It was over. By morning, the story was everywhere. Every news network, every newspaper, every social media platform carried headlines about Admiral Richard Garrett and his network of corrupt officials who'd sold American military technology to enemies for profit. The video evidence was particularly damning. Clear footage of Garrett accepting bribes, ordering assassinations, discussing how to cover up the deaths of federal agents who'd gotten too close. Within hours, Garrett was in custody. Within days, dozens of co-conspirators were arrested. Senior military officers, defense contractor executives, members of Congress who'd taken money to look the other way. The conspiracy unraveled with stunning speed once the evidence became public, everyone scrambling to cut deals and minimize their own exposure. And through it all, Lily Grant became a household name. The 8-year-old girl who'd provided the genetic key to expose treason. News programs ran her photo. Reporters camped outside their home. People debated whether children should be involved in whistleblowing, whether her parents had done the right thing, whether she'd been used or empowered by the experience. It was exactly what Noah had feared, exactly what Garrett had warned would happen. But Lily handled it with the same courage she'd shown throughout the ordeal. When reporters asked questions, she answered simply and honestly. When classmates asked about the news stories, she explained that her family had helped stop bad people from hurting others. And when the attention became overwhelming, she retreated into art, creating drawings that showed not the violence and fear, but the hope and resilience. 3 months after Garrett's arrest, Noah stood in a small art gallery in Manhattan, watching people examine Lily's work displayed on pristine white walls. The exhibition was titled Family Dreams, and it chronicled her journey through trauma to healing. There were the early drawings of Clara from before they'd met, prophetic images that still gave Noah chills. There were pictures of Sarah, drawn from memory during the years she'd been dead, each one labeled with the date and a small note about what Lily had been feeling that day. But the centerpiece was a large canvas showing 4 figures holding hands beneath a sky full of stars. Noah recognized himself, Sarah, Clara, and Lily, painted in bright colors that suggested joy, rather than the darkness they'd walked through to reach this moment. "She calls it family dreams," Clara said, appearing beside Noah, "because she doesn't have to dream about us anymore. We're real now." "That we are," Noah agreed. He looked at his sister-in-law, who'd become such an integral part of their lives over the past months. After everything settled, Clara had moved closer to them, buying a house 3 blocks away so she could be present in Lily's life. She came to school plays and birthday parties, taught Lily about engineering and business, filled the role of aunt with the devotion of someone making up for lost time. Sarah joined them, slipping her hand into Noah's. They'd spent the past 3 months in intensive therapy, rebuilding trust, learning how to be married to each other again after years of separation and deception. It wasn't easy. Some wounds took more than love to heal, but they were trying, taking it day by day, because they both agreed Lily deserved to see her parents working together, even when it was hard. "She's something special, isn't she?" Sarah said, watching Lily across the gallery as she explained one of her paintings to an art critic. "Most kids would have been destroyed by what she went through, but she's used it to create beauty." "She gets that from you," Noah said, "the ability to find light in dark places." "She gets it from both of us," Sarah corrected. "Your courage, my resilience, and something entirely her own that neither of us can take credit for." Marcus appeared with drinks, having appointed himself the family's unofficial security despite no longer being formally employed as such. He'd taken Rodriguez's death hard, but had found purpose in ensuring his friend's sacrifice hadn't been in vain. He testified at multiple trials, helped coordinate protection for other witnesses, and become something of a guardian angel to the Grant family. "Heard from Director Cordova today," Marcus said. "Garrett's trial is set to begin next month. Prosecution is confident he'll get life without parole." "Good," Noah said simply. He'd worried that Garrett would find some way to escape justice, would use his connections and resources to negotiate a lighter sentence. But the evidence had been too overwhelming, the public outrage too intense. Even powerful friends couldn't save him now. "She also said the Justice Department wants to give Lily a civilian commendation," Marcus continued. "Recognition for her role in exposing the conspiracy." "We'll think about it," Sarah said diplomatically. "Right now, we're focused on letting her be a kid again. She's had enough awards and recognition." As if hearing her name, Lily broke away from the art critic and ran over to them, her face flushed with excitement. "Daddy, someone just bought the painting of our house. They said they want to put it in a museum." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Noah said, hugging her. "I'm so proud of you." "Can we celebrate with ice cream?" Lily asked, hopefully. "Absolutely," Sarah said. "Triple scoop sundaes for everyone." "Even Clara?" Lily asked. Clara laughed. "Even me, though I might need help eating it all." "I'll help," Lily volunteered. Then she looked around at all the adults in her life with an expression of such pure contentment that Noah felt his throat tighten. "This is what I drew in my dreams," she said softly. "All of us together, happy and safe. I knew it would come true if we were brave enough." "You were right," Noah said. "You were right about everything." They left the gallery together, this family that had been broken and reformed, that had walked through fire and emerged scarred but whole. Outside, the city pulsed with evening energy, people rushing to appointments and dinners, living lives blissfully free from the conspiracies and dangers that had shaped the Grant family's journey. At a crosswalk, waiting for the light to change, Lily looked up at Noah with those dark, knowing eyes. "Daddy, sometimes I still dream about bad things, about the guns and the scary men." "That's normal, baby," Noah said gently. "It takes time for our minds to heal after scary things happen." "But I also dream about good things now," Lily continued. "I dream about growing up and helping other kids who've been through bad stuff. Maybe being a doctor like Mommy was, or a soldier like you, or a business person like Clara. Someone who protects people." "You can be anything you want to be," Sarah said. "The world is yours, Lily. After everything you've survived, there's nothing you can't do." The light changed and they crossed the street together. Behind them, the art gallery's window display showed Lily's painting of the family holding hands beneath guardian stars, a testament to the truth that sometimes the darkest journeys lead to the brightest destinations. 6 months later, Noah sat in a courtroom watching Admiral Richard Garrett receive his sentence. Life in prison without possibility of parole, to be served in a maximum security facility. As the judge read the sentence, Garrett's face remained impassive, but his eyes found Noah in the gallery and held his gaze for a long moment. Noah stared back, unflinching. He thought about Rodriguez, who died to make this moment possible. He thought about all the soldiers killed by weapons Garrett had sold to their enemies. He thought about Michael and Sarah's 8 stolen years, and about Lily's trauma, and about every life Garrett had damaged or destroyed in pursuit of money and power. and he felt nothing but satisfaction as bailiffs led the corrupt admiral away in chains. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed them asking for comments. Noah gave a brief statement thanking the FBI, the Canadian authorities, and everyone who'd helped bring Garrett to justice. He mentioned Rodriguez by name, ensuring his friend's sacrifice would be remembered. And then he declined further questions, gathered his family, and left the circus of media attention behind. They drove to a cemetery in upstate New York, where Rodriguez was buried with full military honors. His grave was decorated with flowers from the dozens of people whose lives he'd touched. Fellow soldiers, people he'd protected, family members who'd lost him too soon. Marcus knelt beside the grave, placing a bottle of Rodriguez's favorite tequila against the headstone. "We did it, brother," he said quietly. "Garrett's going to rot in prison for the rest of his miserable life. Justice got served. You can rest easy now." Lily placed one of her drawings on the grave, a picture of Rodriguez standing tall and proud, wearing his dress uniform, with angel wings sketched behind him. "Thank you for saving my family," she said solemnly. "I'm going to be brave like you when I grow up." They stood together in silence for several minutes, honoring the fallen. Then, as the sun began to set, painting the cemetery in golden light, they walked back to their car. "What now?" Clara asked as they drove away. "Garrett sentenced, the conspiracies exposed, the trials are mostly finished. What do we do with normal life?" "We live it," Noah said simply. "We wake up every morning and choose to be grateful for what we have, instead of dwelling on what we lost. We raise Lily to be strong and kind and brave. We honor the people who died by living well." "Sounds exhausting," Clara said with a slight smile. "Probably," Noah agreed. "But it beats the alternative." Sarah reached over and squeezed his hand. They'd been working on their marriage in therapy, slowly rebuilding trust and intimacy after years of lies. It wasn't perfect. Some days were harder than others, but they were committed to trying, to finding their way back to the love that had survived everything thrown against it. That evening, after dinner and bedtime stories, after Lily was safely asleep with her stuffed rabbit clutched tight, Noah stood on their back porch looking up at the stars. He thought about the journey that had started with a simple bodyguard job, that had spiraled into conspiracy and violence and nearly cost him everything that mattered. But he'd also gained things he never expected. A sister for Lily. The truth about his wife's past. A deeper understanding of courage and sacrifice. And the knowledge that sometimes the right choice was also the hardest choice, and you had to make it anyway because that's what integrity demanded. "Penny for your thoughts?" Sarah said, joining him on the porch. "Just thinking about how different life is from what I expected," Noah said. "A year ago, I was a struggling single father trying to keep the lights on. Now we're here, together, safe. It doesn't feel real sometimes." "It's real," Sarah assured him. "We're real." "And Noah, I know I've said it before, but I need to say it again. Thank you for not giving up on us, for fighting when it would have been easier to walk away, for being the man I knew you were when I first chose you to protect our daughter." "I didn't have a choice," Noah said. "You're my family, both of you. Family is worth fighting for, even when the fight seems impossible." "Speaking of family," Sarah said with a small smile, "Clara told me she's thinking about adopting. She wants to give a child the same chance her father gave her." "That would be good for her," Noah said. "Good for the kid, too. Clara has a lot of love to give." "So do we," Sarah said. "And I've been thinking, once things settle down even more, once we're more stable, maybe we could consider adopting too, giving Lily a sibling, giving another child a home." Noah looked at her in surprise. "You want to expand our family?" "I want to fill our home with love and laughter and the chaos of children who feel safe and wanted," Sarah said. "I want to turn all the pain and trauma of the past into something beautiful and life-giving." "Is that crazy?" "No," Noah said, pulling her close. "That's perfect. That's exactly what we should do." They stood together under the stars, making plans for a future that felt impossible just months ago. And inside the house, Lily slept peacefully, dreaming not of danger and fear, but of the family that had fought impossible odds to be together. 2 years later, Noah stood in that same spot on the back porch, but the house was no longer quiet. Inside, three children were laughing. Lily, now 10 years old and thriving in school, teaching her new brother and sister how to draw. The siblings, Carlos and Maria, were refugees from a war zone where American weapons sold by Garrett's network had destroyed their village. Adopting them had felt like completing a circle, like taking something destroyed by the conspiracy and giving it new life. Clara lived next door with her adopted daughter Emma, a girl who'd lost her parents in a car accident and found a second chance at family. The two houses had become one extended family, with dinner together most nights, holidays celebrated with too much food and laughter, ordinary moments that felt extraordinary after everything they'd survived. Marcus visited often, having finally retired from security work to teach tactical training at a private academy. He'd started a foundation in Rodriguez's name, providing support for families of fallen service members, ensuring his friend's legacy lived on through helping others. And Sarah worked at a children's trauma center, using her medical training and personal experience to help kids who'd survived their own nightmares. She came home every evening with stories of resilience and healing, of children who learned to laugh again after experiencing horrors no child should know. "Dad," Lily called from inside. "Carlos wants to know if you'll tell us about the time you jumped out of the helicopter." Noah smiled. He'd sanitized the stories for the kids, turning moments of genuine terror into adventure tales that entertained without traumatizing. They knew the broad strokes of what had happened, that their parents had helped stop bad people, that it had been dangerous, that they'd been brave. But they were shielded from the full horror, given space to be children instead of witnesses to adult darkness. "Coming," Noah called back. He took one more look at the stars, at the peaceful suburban street where normal families lived normal lives, and felt a wave of gratitude so intense it almost hurt. They'd survived. Against impossible odds, against professional killers and government corruption, against betrayal and loss and trauma that should have broken them, they'd survived. More than survived. They'd thrived. They'd taken shattered pieces and rebuilt something stronger, built a family from blood and choice and shared survival. Rodriguez's sacrifice hadn't been in vain. Michael and Sarah's 8 years in hiding hadn't been wasted. Lily's courage in the face of danger had been rewarded with the normal childhood she deserved. And Noah's desperate gamble to protect a CEO from paparazzi had led him to discover truths that changed everything, that revealed conspiracies and uncovered family and ultimately saved them all. As he turned to go inside to tell his children sanitized stories about helicopter adventures and camping trips to Canada, Noah caught sight of his reflection in the glass door. He looked older, carrying scars both visible and hidden, but he also looked content, at peace in a way he'd never been during his military years or his time as a struggling single father. Because he'd learned the most important lesson of all, that sometimes protection wasn't about armor or weapons or tactical planning. Sometimes the strongest protection was love, love that endured through lies and separation, love that brought families together across years and secrets, love that made impossible choices bearable and turned victims into survivors and survivors into heroes. Inside, his children were waiting. His wife was laughing at something Carlos said. Clara was arriving with Emma and a homemade dessert. Marcus was pulling up in his truck, always ready to be uncle to this collected family of trauma survivors who'd become something more beautiful than any of them could have imagined. This was the dream Lily had drawn before it happened. The family standing together under guardian stars, holding hands, safe and whole and real. And as Noah stepped inside to join them, closing the door on the darkness of the past and embracing the light of their hard-won future, he knew with absolute certainty that every impossible choice, every moment of terror, every sacrifice along the way had been worth it. Because in the end, the soldier had protected the CEO, but she'd protected him right back. And together, with courage borrowed from a child who dreamed of better things, they'd protected each other and built something that no conspiracy could destroy, no villain could take away. They'd built a family, not perfect, not unmarked by trauma, but real and loving and brave. And that, Noah thought, as Lily grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the couch where stories waited to be told, was the greatest victory of all.